Okay, 65 northbound is closed just north of I-440. It looks like the same goes for the off-ramp from 440 to go northbound on 65. And Channel 4 says this is for a shooting investigation. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. My name is Matt Murphy, and I'm grumpy. Amongst other things, I'm grumpy about the fact that I can't figure out how to get these little movie camera icons off of my Smartway, Tennessee map, which I went to on the advice of Ken Weaver because Ken Weaver is talking about 65 has been permanently closed, or not permanently, but it's been closed, which nobody believes because it's not I-24. Ken's reputation precedes him. Does that make sense to everyone? And so I go to Smartways, and I think, well, man, I need to look right here because I'm trying to be a sensible and respectful host. We are in drive time in Nashville, Tennessee, one of the biggest cities in the United States of America. Might need to tell the folks what they need to know about 65 northbound. And this did not exist the last time I was on the Smartways Tennessee.gov map.
Yeah.
There's just a bunch of cameras blocking what I can see. Have you noticed this?
They've changed some stuff. Yeah, if you click on the feature menu up at the top right.
This is why I love Chris.
And then you can deselect any of those things you don't want to see. Like it comes with everything pre-selected.
Goodbye. Yeah.
So if you get rid of all those little icons.
Wait, so the government website is running Waze too? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Okay. Well, that was simple.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chris.
All better.
That's why they call him the best in the business, folks. He's executive producer of this radio show, making sure that everything that comes out of our speakers sounds as good as humanly possible, and we certainly appreciate him. He is Chris Webber. He's behind the glass. Behind his glass is Ken Weaver. He's the one that delivered the bad news about I-65 northbound, just south of 440. Nobody believes Ken Weaver, however.
Oh, really?
That's right. You know why?
Why is that?
Because it's not about I-24.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, I'm looking at the TDOT cameras here. And you got a number of police vehicles there on the scene, lights flashing, 65 is shut down, and there seems to, it looks like there's a car off in the trees there in the little median in between the on-ramp and then the actual interstate itself, and that's where Channel 4 says there has been a shooting.
I find it interesting that, now I'm getting the gist of this. Now I'm getting the hang of it. A little late to the game. But I click on the Armory Drive one works. I find it interesting that the camera that is mounted and available at I-65 northbound Armory Drive mile marker 79.15 is not available.
Oh, go to the one that is 78N.
78.
Yeah, this is at Craighead, mile marker 80.96.
I'm not seeing
I'm looking right at it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I see it as well.
80.9. I don't see 80.96. I see 77.83. I see 78.6 mile marker. Let's keep going up. And then I see, what is that? 79.15. Oh, I need to keep going north.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. It's mile marker 80.96 and then R3-078, whatever the hell that means.
The camera just north of the little incident triangle.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, if you're looking on there, it's the camera over Craighead Street.
Craighead.
That I'm looking at.
I don't.
Do you need me to come in there, Murphy?
No, I do not. I see the cameras. I see the one at Harding Place. That's mile marker 77.83. R3054. Y'all see that one?
No, sir.
See,
You don't want to use that one. Yeah.
But do you see that one?
No.
See, I see that one. Oh, the 78.60 is working again.
78.60. Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that traffic nastiness. Maybe I'm looking at different cameras than y'all are looking at. Maybe I have special.
You need to look at the one just north of 440. It's the first one north of 440.
See, I'm south of 440.
Yeah, you're too far south.
I'm too south. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, well, everybody knows about 80.96, guys. Come on.
It's the one over Craighead Street.
Oh, that is Craighead Street. Oh, yeah, right next to the dog park.
Yeah.
Right near the Fairground Speedway that Freddie O'Connell will not allow Bristol Motor Speedway to repair.
Well, then.
Slides right into the politics of all of this. Yeah, I'm looking. I was just too south, fellas. I was too south.
Yeah, so now I'm seeing Highway Patrol on the scene, too.
On a more serious note, we're talking victim. We're talking, what are we talking about? We're talking about somebody that passed away.
I'm just looking. The report is that they're investigating a shooting.
Okay.
It's a shooting investigation.
That's tough.
That has closed northbound 65. They're just north of 440. But also, if you are 440 and you need to get to northbound 65, that is closed too. Apparently, at 2:30 this afternoon, the what in the world?
I don't know.
It just shut off on me. I was trying to read that.
Can't depend on anything anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I will say this. You can depend on a few things. You can depend on Ken Weaver in the Supertalk 99.7 WTN newsroom, gathering headlines diligently and delivering for them twice an hour and when it breaks. You can also depend on Chris Weber. You cannot depend on me. Your humble correspondent goes off the rails on multiple occasions on a daily basis, and I apologize for all of that. Okay, but you can depend on this. We open up the phone lines at 3 o'clock, and I love having a dialogue, love turning a dialogue, monologue, I should say, into a dialogue, and you may do so by these numbers, 615-737-9986. Sometimes we depend on our field producers when we have a nasty traffic situation in and around the metro area, especially when we are approaching drive time traffic. Now, obviously, this is a northbound situation, so that's not going to impact coming out of the city so much, but, you know, it's going to impact some, no question.
Well, there's a lot of rubbernecking.
No doubt. No doubt. And a lot of people coming up northbound. I mean, you know, there's always traffic in Nashville, Tennessee. I learned that pretty early on. So if you see anything, say something by dialing up those telephone numbers and letting us know what's going on. I've made a huge tactical error in as much as I did not take my coat off before I got under these lights. And so I'm just going to get angrier and angrier until we get to the break, which is happening in about 8 minutes or so.
Let me go ahead and just
take it off. I probably could.
I'll put a little music on while you...
Oh, that's good. Okay, yeah, that's good. That's disrobing music. Check us out, Supertalk 99.7 WTN. Matt Murphy's going to strip for you. Please stand by.
That's one of my favorite songs, Jack.
Oh. Man, I wore too many clothes for the temperature. I thought it was going back down today.
I did. Well, I was talking to Brother Chris about that. It looks like it's freezing outside.
I mean, it does. It has that winter look.
Yep.
But it's 70 degrees outside.
Yes.
Which is weird.
Not quite that warm, but it is warm. Warmer than you would think it would be.
What are we popping right now?
We're in the low 50s.
What are we looking at now?
Like 52 or something
I see. I got 50 degrees.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm off. I'm way off then.
But it still feels warm.
Yeah.
Well,
but see, it was this temperature at 6 o'clock this morning. So I thought, okay, it's going to get colder as the day goes on. Some days it does that, but it's just holding steady.
Yeah,
all these clouds.
And then the next few days, it's I think it's yo-yoing on us. Let's look at our. You know what? I'm going to go to our weather leader here in Nashville, Tennessee, which is my phone. I love it when radio stations still say that they're your weather leader. I mean, and I'm not casting aspersions.
The weather leader.
Your weather leader. My weather leader's in my hip pocket, Jack.
Mm-hmm.
So today it is. Yeah. Well, I got 59
as the high
on the weather leader. No, right now.
Right now.
That's what it says. But getting up to say, so tomorrow it rains. 70% shot at it. 80% shot at it Thursday. That does not mean that it's going to rain for 80% of the day. Remember, that means that you have an 80% chance that it rains where you are. Right. And then, and so 63 tomorrow, 70, then 55 is the high. So, yeah, just unnaturally warm conditions. I guess we take it where we can get it.
Yeah, it'll be gone before you know it.
Yeah, and
get cold again.
I like the cold.
Yeah,
I like winter to be winter.
I could take a couple more weeks of it.
I mean, me too. I could take. I think all three of us agree that
sure.
Don't we? We need some 20-degree conditions just to kind of feel it, so we can appreciate the springtime when it comes around. Right, Ken?
as my third grade teacher would have said, no, actually fourth grade teacher, shut your mouth, boy.
You had one of those too.
Oh, yes. Shut your mouth, boy.
Oh, goodness me. Well, one way or the other, you know what? If you're on 65 northbound, you're not worried about the weather. You're worried about what the hell's going on in the traffic, and it's going to be bad for just a hot minute. We'll keep you up to date with what's happening there. There are another few local stories that we'll get into over the course of the afternoon as well, to include, hey, you know, when you depend on the future of certain aspects of a master plan that involves borrowing money from another entity that is ultimately borrowing that money against its own good faith and credit. That entity in this case would be the United States federal government, particularly when there are election consequences to people like Donald Trump getting into office, then sometimes negative things happen. And I am amused to say that apparently Nashville Mayor Freddie O'Connell's master plan on the issue of transit has hit something of a snag. Mayor Freddie O'Connell telling reporters that termination of federal funding sources under President Donald J. Trump could, quote, jeopardize elements of his Choose How You Move transit plan that was passed by voters last November, but said a possible lack of federal money would not mean Nashvillians pay higher taxes. Buddy, you're already asking us to pay higher taxes. You're asking us to pay higher taxes in regard to this transit tax. You've already announced on my radio show that you are planning on upping property taxes in Davidson County. How much are you going to soak us for? Exactly. Sir? Maybe you ought not to depend on long-term infrastructure plans based on money borrowed or gotten from the federal government in the form of grant money, when there's no guarantee that that money will be available, particularly in as much as it is borrowed money, made up cash that doesn't really exist in the first place. Just a tip. O'Connell acknowledged in a press conference yesterday, which was first reported by Fox 17. I'm reading this article from Tennessee Star. We give credit even though people don't give us credit, but whatever. That the transportation plan he championed, quote, does have expectations about federal funding, and if programs evaporate from a federal level, the speed at which part of the 15-year program are set to be completed would need to be reconsidered. In some cases, it may just mean patience. We may have to adjust timelines, and yes, we probably could be looking for whatever similar replacement sources there were. You know, this goes... setting aside the intimate details of the transit plan, it goes to the heart of a subject that I want to talk about today, and that is our interdependence on using money that doesn't really exist, and how breaking the back of that dependence on fake money, free money, free money, free money, free money, everything's free from the federal government, right? One of the reasons that I choose to call the baby ugly when a natural disaster occurs and everybody waits around on FEMA to come in, and I'm the guy that walks in and says, this isn't the way to do it, guys. This is not the way to run that railroad. To depend on the federal government to come in with a blank checkbook that they write on the backs of your children, grandchildren, on borrowing from foreign entities, or at least selling treasury bonds to foreign entities, that is not the way to do this. We need to adopt an approach of a pay-as-you-go attitude when it comes to these types of things. And I understand that sometimes you have to borrow money for capital projects. You have to borrow money for infrastructure. I'm not necessarily against that, but you ought to have a payment plan in place that relies on real money, not fake money. And we do this everywhere in the government. And now we have a president of the United States of America who's decided to do something about it. And he's serious. And boy, the usual suspects are absolutely howling. So we've got that to discuss on the show today. Boy, that trade war with Mexico and Canada lasted a long time, didn't it? Never forget. I was trying to find earlier. I couldn't find one, but I was trying to find like like some army guy, like a photo of army guys all toppled over in some kid's bedroom. Say the trade wars of 2025, never forget. I mean, the liberal media declared that Donald Trump was playing with fire and Donald Trump was going to get he was going to get destroyed and Canada. I mean, still to this second, I just saw Dumbo Gloria Johnson. Oh, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be mean. I should not be mean. I apologize to Dumbo. You don't deserve it. You do not. Dumbo is a fine, classic Disney character. He is an icon of cartoon literature, and I should not insult Dumbo in that fashion. I apologize. Gloria Johnson's running around screaming that Donald Trump lost, that Canada beat Donald Trump, that Mexico. What planet are you people living on that you think this is so? Well, we'll get into it. And meanwhile, Chuck Schumer is running around screaming about the idea of cutting government spending. And liberal Democrats, they seem to love democracy until such time as democracy is enacted in a fashion that they don't appreciate. And then suddenly they become rather authoritarian about the whole thing. The way that this is coming up nowadays is with this USAID or USAID and how it has become the best, most expensive example of the deep state attempting to cover up government overspending, government corruption, government waste and abuse. And they're far more concerned with you learning about it than they are stopping it. They don't want to stop it because they've used it as a piggy bank for the last 40 years. But now we know about it. In the meantime, Joe Biden apparently threw away $280 billion in the last months of his presidency, and nobody can seem to find it. I'll have that story for you in just a moment. Your telephone calls all afternoon long. Would love to hear from you. 615-737-9986. You can also jump on the super text line. It is episode 742. It is Locks for Trump Day 339, and you can find us on a variety of platforms, 99.7 FM, all of your apps, and Super Talk TV. Back in a moment. You know, one of my favorite words is diagnoses. If you have one diagnosis, it's a diagnosis. If you have two diagnoses, it's a diagnosis. And there are a lot of them out there. There is a pill for everything. There seems to be a remedy for everything. But not every diagnosis is an accurate one. And that's what I want to talk to you about when it comes to your car. If you get a diagnosis for your European auto for your repair, it is good to get a second opinion before you make a major decision. Eurofix is the home for those second opinions. Eurofix can help you save hundreds or even thousands of dollars on your European vehicle auto repair from a diagnosis. Eurofix, here's the deal. It can not only save your vehicle's life, but it could save you a ton of money because you get a 15-minute, no-wrench inspection at the time that you bring your car into Eurofix, and they will let you know exactly what's going on. You also get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. At Eurofix, you never pay dealer prices. Franklin, 100 Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and the brand-new location in MJ, Mount Juliet. Call 844-EUROFIX. That's 844-EUROFIX, or visit myEurofix.com.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Okay, 65 northbound is shut down between I-440 and Wedgwood Avenue for a fatal shooting investigation. Police, even the highway patrol on the scene there. That is also affecting the ramps from 440 to get to northbound 65. So we'll try to get some more information on that for you. Also, there is a manhunt for a murder suspect here in Middle Tennessee. We'll tell you about that at 3:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you much, Ken Weaver. 27, almost 28 after the hour right now. Matt Murphy and the Matt Murphy Show in progress on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So in all seriousness, I'm looking at the smartway camera that is at 440. The junction of 440 and 65, and it is pointed in the direction of Wedgwood Avenue. I am looking at what I believe to be the scene of this incident that Ken Weaver just described to you, and there is 1, 2, 3, 4, if not 5. There's one of those big yellow traffic trucks.
TDOT.
The TDOT trucks, sure. That's there, and there's also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at least. One of the cars is pulling away now. 5 police cars. And then there seem to be, and maybe there are 2 other cars that are there on the scene that are not flashing lights. And I just wonder if those are perhaps the cars involved in what we believe to be a shooting incident happening on 65 northbound right now. But traffic is shut down, as Ken just told you, between 440 and at least, I guess, Wedgwood. Do we know? Let me close this out. Ken, do you know if it's open north of Wedgwood? I guess it would be. Huh?
Yeah. It's just closed in between Wedgwood and 440.
There we go. Yeah, I see it now. And yeah, I've got another eyeball. Yeah. I mean, they're letting traffic on at Wedgwood. That's that mile marker 8157. So traffic is getting on the interstate there, but obviously no traffic until that point. So we'll keep you up to date with all of that and try to figure out what's going on in terms of the possibility of a shooting happening there on the scene. All right, Donald Trump and USAID. USAID was described by most resources that I utilized last evening as a, quote, independent agency of the United States government that's primarily responsible for administrating civil foreign aid and development assistance. With a budget of over $50 billion, USAID is one of the largest official aid agencies in the world. It accounts for more than half of all U.S. foreign assistance, the highest in the world in terms of absolute dollars. It has also been a piggy bank for individuals wishing to bilk from the system, those that engage in a level of waste, fraud, and abuse that perhaps is even unimaginable to those of us who do this for a living. I'll give you an easy example to understand: the Clinton Foundation, which ultimately did nothing except enrich the Clinton family and their minions and their friends and their relationships. The Clinton Foundation would regularly get money from USAID, promising to help nations like Haiti. They did not. If you truly are concerned about the Haitian people, and I understand that, I mean, there but for the grace of God go you and I. And my goodness gracious, those folks need some sort of relief in their lives. But if you have any love in your hearts for the Haitian people, you should detest USAID for what they have done to exploit them, claiming to benefit them. It is a sad state of affairs. We're going to get into it in a moment. In the 4 o'clock hour, we will talk with Representative John Rose about this and other subjects on the Matt Murphy Show. Your call's coming up. Ed, you'll be first, 31 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. 65 northbound closed just north of I-440, in between 440 and Wedgwood. This is for a fatal shooting investigation, according to police. Looks like the on-ramps to 65 northbound from 440 will be affected too. In fact, you're going to have to keep going west on 440 and east on 440 if you are trying to go north on 65 for this fatal shooting investigation. Got the full forecast, another traffic update in 5 minutes. Authorities in Robertson County looking for a man who they say is a dangerous suspect. Apparently a welfare check this morning turned up a man found dead This was at Fisher Grove Road in Greenbrier. The Robertson County Sheriff's Department went there to conduct a welfare check, found a man dead. Now they're looking for a dangerous suspect, they say. Here in Tennessee, state lawmakers going to be debating a bill challenging a 43-year-old U.S. Supreme Court ruling on children in the U.S. illegally. The legislation filed today by House Majority Leader William Lamberth and Senate Finance Chair Bo Watson of Hickson allows local school districts to opt out of enrolling a child who is in the country illegally. That 1982 Supreme Court ruling says children here illegally have a right to a free public education. And in our nation's capital, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer furious with Elon Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency for freezing the USAID agency.
Whatever Doge is doing, it's not democracy.
Well, Secretary of State Marco Rubio runs that agency now. He says anything from USAID that provides food or medicine or anything that is saving lives and is immediate and urgent is not included in the freeze. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, again, 65 northbound is shut down between I-440 and Wedgwood Avenue for what police are saying is a deadly shooting investigation. This is also going to impact both east and westbound 440, the on-ramps to go northbound on 65. They're not going to let you on. We also have a crash in Antioch, Hickory Hollow Parkway, right there at I-24. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Some people in the South lovingly refer to roaches as water bugs. But I say no. We know what we're talking about, right? We're talking about roaches. German roaches, American roaches, Oriental cockroaches, all are potential pests in your home in the state of Tennessee. What are you going to do about them? I don't mean to freak you out, but if you have seen a roach, there are more, a lot more, in your walls. And the droppings have been linked to increases in asthma and eczema and other disease-borne illnesses that could affect your family and your health. If you are concerned about these things, might I encourage you to contact U.S. Pest? J.K. and Erica Brister are the owners of U.S. Pest, and they have been growing by leaps and bounds over the last several years because they are simply the best at protecting your home away from things like roaches and other nasty bugs that want inside to take what is yours, your warmth and your food, whether it's roaches or mice or other, furry rodents, or perhaps it's a concern for termite protection. Every home in Tennessee is threatened by termites. It's time to get with the best. Get U.S. Pest. And as an incentive, you make the call to U.S. Pest and you switch over from your current pest control provider, and they will take care of your first month. That's a $200 value for the switchover just for giving them the opportunity to show how superior they are in terms of pest control. So give them a call at 590-1260. That is 615-590-1260 or online at uspest.com. Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief located in Franklin. What would you do if your pain was gone? Have you lived with pain for some time now? Is it becoming or has it become a normal part of your life? What if I had you imagine living in a pain-free fashion where you could move about without fear of pain? Well, the possibilities are there. The Dr. Gill Center is there. Whether it's back pain, neck pain, knee pain, hip pain, elbow pain, wherever it hurts, the Dr. Gill Center can assist you. And at the Dr. Gill Center, they've helped thousands, literally thousands, if not tens of thousands of people just like you over their 30 years in the Middle Tennessee area. They have a team of experts, Dr. Wendy, Dr. Dominic, Dr. V, just to name three. Take it from me, I don't just talk about them on the radio. I am a patient of the Dr. Gill Centers, and the Dr. Gill Center has been invaluable to me in helping assist me in alleviating my pain as well. Don't settle for a clinic that doesn't put you first. Let's go to the Dr. Gill Center today. Schedule that appointment by making a call to 615-882-4838, 882-4838, or visit callmepainfree.com and tell them Matt Murphy sent you to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, and Chronic Pain Relief. If you're not watching on Super Talk TV, and I encourage you to watch as you can, just give us the old thumbs up, like, and subscribe us. It's no skin off your nose.
Doesn't cost a thing.
And it takes a half second, half second. Look, I'll show you how easy it is because I got it pulled up right here. You just go over here, and you get the mouse over there, and you go click, and there. I just liked us, which feels.
Wait a minute, you hadn't already done it?
Well, I like to wait, make sure that I'm doing a good job. I don't want to like the show in advance of, doing something. I need to make sure the host is going to really bring it.
So you feel good about it?
I feel good about it so far. Okay. I don't really feel good about the title of the show today. I looked and I read the first part of it, and I thought I swear before I read the last half, I thought I'm 51, buddy. It says gloomy, gray, and 50. The weather, not the host. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Chris Weber in charge of titling.
That's the best I can do today.
Our Super Talk television. No, you do a great job.
I almost wish that if I would have known that you were 51, in fact, I probably would have
put 51
instead.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, I'm getting up there. And gray. I don't want to talk about it.
Little gloomy there, aren't you?
I mean, yeah.
Maybe it is you.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, frankly, that is if it was 51, that would be a perfect description of my mood right now because I'm kind of grumpy today.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I'm on edge. I'm on edge about the chair in the hallway.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I don't know why, but I just let loose on it during the cross with Chad Benson. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm not even hating on anybody, and there could be a perfectly reasonable explanation. But does anybody think these things in your line of work, where you go to do your business in your place of business or whatever, that at some point the chair was moved into the hallway for some reason?
From somewhere.
And no, it was in here.
It was in there.
That chair was in here.
Oh.
So it is either considered to be broken, which is fine. I mean, we break chairs like nobody's business.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
In radio.
Yep.
Or it was moved for some purpose. Once again, I'm not even hating. Promise you. I'm not. But I'm fascinated with the mentality of I'm just going to set this here and then I'm just going to leave it in the middle of the hall.
Yeah.
For 2 days. I just like.
Maybe whoever moved it wanted to see if it would be missed. And they're giving it a chance to whoever to reckon, oh, yeah, that goes in here. Because if they're going to throw it away, it should be where we put all the chairs that are going to be thrown away, in the stairwell. That's the perfect place for that. It's where they always end up, in the stairwell.
That's better than my former radio station in Birmingham. They had a room, like an office, like a room dedicated to the chairs.
Yeah.
They're broken. They're never going to be used again. But we can't throw them away. We just need to put them in this room.
Yeah.
There was a big pile of them.
We're waiting until we have enough to fill the scrap truck up.
I guess so. We shouldn't complain. I don't have to work for a living. I get to talk to you guys. And we will talk to you about not only trade wars, but also the USAID. I know we discussed it a little bit yesterday, but I did a little more of a deep dive on it. And I'm fascinated how much of I wouldn't call it a microcosm because it's not that micro. It's pretty big. But this is such an example. It is the best example. It is the first example that has been uncovered by Elon Musk of the extreme level of government waste. We have often wondered on my radio show, I'm certain you've often wondered in your lives, how in the world is it that we don't spend $1 trillion a year, we overspend by $1 trillion a year? How in the world is it that we've gotten to a point where our budget has exploded in a fashion where we have overspent by $37 trillion? I wouldn't know where to begin to understand how to spend that much money. Well, when you start understanding the levels of corruption and the levels of waste, fraud, and abuse, and how simply people sign off on these matters as if it's not their money, because guess what? It's not their money. They don't care. What do they care? They're government bureaucrats making, in some cases, six figures. You know, $120,000, $130,000, $140,000 a year just to be a blank check, to sign off on these things. It's not their money. What do they care? And if they deny, if they're in a position to deny some of these ridiculous government programs, a list of which I have, that's just a headache. It's a hassle to deny them. It's easier just to, okay, sure, whatever. You know, you do what you got to do. I mean, some of the extreme examples presented by the press secretary of the United States of America yesterday, Caroline Leavitt. Leavitt?
I think it's Leavitt.
Is it Leavitt? I'm going to go
might not be.
I think it's Leavitt. I think you're right. Caroline's doing a great job. Man, oh, man. And she outlined some of the extreme waste in this one program alone. Is it any wonder that Elon Musk chose this agency as his first task under this new president of the United States of America? What I am fascinated by are the amount of Democrats that would suggest to you that he has no authority to do this. Let's give you an example. Good old Chuck Schumer, the former majority leader in the United States Senate, now the minority leader in the United States Senate, had this to say about Doge.
And the American people, mark my words, the American people will not stand for an unelected, secret group to run rampant through the executive branch.
Buddy, what are you talking about? We voted for this. What part of that don't you understand? Donald Trump was not secretive about what his plans were. I know that it is odd for Democrats because they make all of these pie-in-the-sky promises when they're campaigning that they have no intention of fulfilling. Oh, we're going to make your lives better. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do all of these things. They know that these aren't realistic promises or premises. And they do so knowing that when they do not fulfill them, they'll just point fingers at Republicans and blame the Republican Party. Because the Republican Party largely says, rightly so, that's not the government's job. That's not our responsibility. That's not what we want to do with government, whatever. So I know it's new to you that this guy comes into office and actually begins the process of fulfilling his promises, such as cutting the size of government, such as cutting out the Department of Education, something that he is going to do by executive order or has already done by executive order. Got a new deal together with Panama. Did y'all not see that? The media won't cover it. Trade wars with Canada and Mexico lasted all of 14 hours. Those were settled. China's going to take a little bit longer. China has responded with tariffs of their own. We put tariffs on China. They put tariffs on us. That'll be worked out in a more long-term fashion. That's a bit more of a tricky wicket in as much as China is a trading partner, but they're also a geopolitical enemy. Not necessarily so with Mexico or Canada, but we got those two right quickly. So I know you're not accustomed to actually getting things done, Chuck, but that's what we're doing. The American people gave Donald Trump a mandate, and he's going to use it.
The American people, mark my words.
Mark your words.
The American people will not stand for an unelected, secret group to run rampant through the executive branch.
What secret group is he talking about? They're on the X machine, pal. At DOGE. As transparent an organization as you'll ever find in government. you're just lying. Because you know that the mainstream media, sadly, so many people still watch these garbage networks. Do not watch them. I'll watch them so you don't have to. Like CNN, garbage network full of garbage people. Hashtag never CNN. ABC, NBC, CBS, same deal. And and the difference is if you don't like what I have to say, you can fight back. You can speak truth to power. You can call us up. Chuck continues.
Being innovative is good. But, Mr. Musk, this isn't a tech startup. These are public institutions that deal with things like Social Security and Medicare and national defense and provide for the well-being of the American people. And the American people have a right to be part of that debate.
The American people were part of that debate. Throughout 2024, the American people spoke up loud and clear, despite the fact that Democrats like Chuck Schumer and his minions and other liberal, leftist, socialists all across the United States of America, despite you using language and rhetoric that almost got his head blown off, the American people spoke loudly and clearly, despite the fact that you went and utilized and weaponized the court system over the course of the last 3 years, despite the fact that you used your political weight to attempt to impeach the man for doing nothing wrong, despite the fact that you have consistently lied about him over the course of the last 8 years, over and over and over again. The American people had their say, sir, and they chose wisely. They chose someone that puts the American people in front of the American government, and those are two different things. And the American government does not do anything as well as the private sector. Not anything, with the possible exception of our United States military, which is empowered to kill people and break things. But we don't do that as efficiently. It's amazing to me how much Democrats claim to believe in democracy until they lose. And then suddenly they speak like this.
Institutions that deal with things like Social Security and Medicare and national defense and provide for the well-being of the American people. And the American people have a right to be part of that debate.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that debate.
Mm-hmm. Come on, buddy.
The elections occurred. And one viewpoint got a few more votes than the other. But that doesn't mean we throw out democracy.
What are you? Democracy is the ballot, you jerk. What are you talking about? This is the result of that vote, where the American people gave the Republicans and Donald Trump the House and the Senate to do what he promised to do. And this is a part of that. This is how government gets shrunk, howling and screaming the entire way. Let me get to Ed real quick before I take a time out. Ed, thank you for holding. How are you, sir?
I'm well, sir. Thanks so much for taking my call.
Of course.
Last election cycle, when President Trump lost to Joe Biden, I remember lots of people took pictures and said, hey, remember that gas was, 13 cents a gallon and the interest rate was 1.7% and all that. And one thing that I want people to remember, that I hope people will remember, is that Chuck Schumer and the Democratic senators and Congress people have stood in the way so far in the first 2 weeks, maybe 2.5 weeks of President Trump's presidency, and have equated the work that he is doing with avocados, Corona beer, Canadian bacon, and maple syrup, saying that all of those things are more important than shutting our borders, eliminating the influx of fentanyl, protecting the citizenship of the United States and being a citizen of the United States, and no longer devaluing the citizenship of the United States by doing the things that the law mandates that he's doing. And those people have stood up in Congress and said, Yeah, but you aren't going to be able to have your guacamole.
Well, but and they do so because they have no other way to criticize it. But here's
Absolutely.
Ed, normal people think this way. Would you prefer, I mean, if you had to choose, and you don't have to choose this because Mexico's already acquiesced, but if you have to pick between a stronger southern border that's going to prevent the bad guys from coming in here and doing bad guy things, and I say to you, because of that, you're going to have to pay a little more for guac.
That's right.
We'll pay a little more for guac. Okay.
All day long.
No big deal.
Somebody will grow it in the United States.
Well, that's exactly right. And if the American people get tired of, and thank you, Ed, for the call, I got to run. If the American people get tired of paying a little more for guac, then we'll figure it out. The free market will figure it out. The free market's like water. Free market flows like water flowing down a hill. It will find the easiest path, even if you do not believe a path exists. I have a path to a break. We'll be back in a moment on Super Talk. People ask me, especially liberals, you know, they listen to the show, and occasionally I get the email, Murphy, how do you sleep at night? And I say I sleep pretty good. I sleep pretty good because of the Dr. Poss and Dr. McLaughlin Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center, in part at least, because they have provided me with an incredible opportunity to sleep better, sleep through the night, and not have to worry about my mild sleep apnea. I did not realize I had mild sleep apnea. I spoke with Dr. Poss. I said, Dr. P., talk to me. I'm feeling low energy. I don't know what's going on. He said, you need a sleep test. Took a sleep test, and yes, lo and behold, despite the fact that I did not snore very much, I did have mild sleep apnea. Well, he did a 3D scan of my mouth, and I got my oral device, FDA approved, and it fits my mouth and my mouth alone, and it holds my jaw forward, helping me breathe better at night, sleep better. I have more energy. I don't stop breathing at night. I don't have the health complications that go along with it. That's what it's all about. And in-network for most insurance in the state of Tennessee. That's what it is all about. Let's sleep better. Let's make that appointment today. Murfreesboro and Brentwood, 2 locations to serve you. Go to drposs.com. That's drposs.com. Tell them I sent you to the Sleep Apnea and TMJ Solution Center.
Police say they are investigating a deadly shooting, so it has 65 northbound closed just south of downtown. Legislation filed that allows Tennessee school districts to opt out of enrolling children in the U.S. illegally. Tulsi Gabbard's nomination as Director of National Intelligence clearing a hurdle today, and Waffle House passing the cost of eggs to you. These stories and more on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
My poor, poor Waffle House. Going to be blamed, I'm sure.
It's their fault. That's what everybody's going to say.
I'll die on this hill. It ain't Waffle House's fault.
No.
But I did the math one time on Waffle House eggs.
Yeah.
You know, we were selling in 1994, we were selling 2 eggs, toast, and grits. That was just, no meat in this, but 2 eggs, toast, and grits were like $2.35.
That is great.
Do you know what the food cost was on that? I did the math because I was manager.
Less than $1.
9 cents.
9 cents.
Wow.
9 cents. I'm not kidding. 9 cents for 2 eggs, toast, and grits.
It's pretty good margins there.
But
bad.
I mean, you got to cook it, and you got the liability,
right.
you got all
pay
that
you
kind of thing.
and all that.
Well, the chicken's got to get something.
Yeah, well, yeah, you got to give the chicken kickbacks. By the way, 11:30. You say most guac is grown in California. There are 3 ways that that sentence is wrong. 1, the sentence structure. 2, guac is not grown, and 3, it's in Mexico, not California. Anyway.
Four o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. And 65 northbound is closed between I-440 and Wedgwood Avenue. 65 is being diverted to 440. That's northbound 65. Now, this is for what police say is a deadly shooting investigation. At least 1 person killed. Police officers have been seen going in and out of these trees where a Tesla, what appears to be a Tesla, has stopped under these trees in the median. Police are also going up to an SUV that's farther up the interstate as part of this scene. We're also tracking what could be 4 rain systems over the next couple of days. Full forecast, traffic updates in 5 minutes. Right now at the state capitol, legislation has been filed that lets local school districts opt out of enrolling kids in the country when the kids are here illegally. It is a challenge to a 1982 U.S. Supreme Court ruling that says any child in the U.S. illegally has a right to a free public education. And in our nation's capital, Susan Collins reportedly announcing support for Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, and her confirmation vote now headed for the Senate floor. Stephen Portnoy says a group of FBI agents is suing to block the release of lists of those who worked on the January 6th cases.
The class action lawsuit points to a form FBI agents were ordered to fill out, seeking specific details of their work on January 6th cases. The expressed fear is the answers will be used to target agents for discipline and dismissals, adding that there's no other legitimate agency purpose for the information to be collected. The suit notes FBI agents are tasked by their leadership and, quote, not free to refuse assignments based on their political or personal preferences.
CBS was reporting earlier today that the FBI handed over to the DOJ a list of 5,000 names. Tariffs on imports to the European Union could be next, says Alexis Christoforous.
Think olive oil, cheese, wine, chocolate, the list goes on. We import more than we export to the EU. And he is upset that there's not that balance.
He being President Trump, who in the Oval Office today was taking questions on a number of topics, including the offer from El Salvador to house dangerous criminals, including American citizens in prisons there. Mr. Trump says he likes that idea.
These are sick people. If we could get them out of our country, we have other countries that would take them. It's no different than a prison system, except it would be a lot less expensive, and it would be a great deterrent.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, the deadly shooting investigation has 65 northbound closed between 440 and Wedgwood Avenue. Everybody on 65 northbound being diverted to 440. And looks like there is a crash Hickory Hollow Parkway at I-24 in Antioch. Then now we've got a new crash. This is on 440 going westbound at 65. That's near that shooting. And in Laverne, we've got a crash 24 eastbound after Waldron Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Currently, right now, at the White House, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, President Donald J. Trump is meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. They're meeting at the White House to discuss plans to attempt to wind down the conflict in the Middle East. You know, we have hostages coming home, thankfully. Donald J. Trump promised that we would get our hostages home, and slowly but surely that is happening, and we're thankful for it. We'll cover that for you as information becomes available about the nature of the meeting. And as we get sound on that, we'll give you sound here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. Thank you for being with us on Super Talk. We're covering this situation on I-65. You've heard Ken Weaver talking about it from the newsroom. Obviously, there is a shooting situation involving, we don't know how many people. We don't know the nature of the shooting, but we do know that there was a shooting incident that created a dynamic by which the authorities made the decision to shut down I-65 as soon as we know something more. And as Ken Weaver related to you, there's some activity. There's a car and a tree line. Don't really know if that is the victim or a suspect. No, we just don't know. But we've got eyeballs on it, and we will keep you up to date on the traffic situation that is the result of that roadway shutdown, and we'll keep you up to date on the background as to why it was shut down in the first place. As soon as we have that information, we'll pass it along to you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Covering everything going on in Washington, D.C. at breakneck speed. Let me tell you, I've missed having a president of the United States. I really have. I mean, hell, even Barack Obama gave us something to complain about, right? Joe Biden was just there and over and over and over again. It felt like Groundhog Day. We just had Groundhog Day the other day. It felt like every day we're like, where's Joe Biden? Who's running the country? Where's Joe Biden? Who's running the country? Oh, listen to what he said this time. Oh, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Oh, yeah. That's the best you're going to see him every day. Oh, sure. Every day. Same thing. Now we have it going at breakneck speed in D.C. To speak on these matters, we welcome back to the show Congressman John Rose. Always good to check in with John, see what's on his mind, and see what's going on from his perspective of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C. Hello, Congressman.
Good afternoon, Matt. Thanks for having me on the show today.
Man, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. Obviously, give me your assessment of this activity since, I mean, it feels like 2 months, not 2 weeks.
Well, I think, it's really energizing to see, and it is a breakneck pace, I think, by any historic standard. But when compared to the just paucity of activity that we saw coming out of the Biden presidency for the last 4 years, it's really startling, and it kind of reminds us of what a capable president can do. And so you're right. I mean, President Trump has been so much more active than presidents historically have been, even in this early period, and by comparisons of presidents that have gotten out of the chute fast. But then when you compare it to Sleepy Joe, it's just dramatic. But there's so much that needs to be done, and we learn every day of ridiculous actions that the Biden administration, not the president, but the people around him, took in the final days of the administration that are just startling. disappointing, and I think point to work that Congress needs to take on to make sure that we stop this from happening in the future.
Well, and it's where I wanted to start because we have a report out from the Government Accountability Office, one that you may be referencing, John. The Biden administration wasted $236 billion with a B taxpayer dollars through improper payments involving 71 federal programs in 2023 alone. The improper payments underscore, according to the article here, President Donald Trump's vow to clean up the administrative state, particularly in the executive branch, and support the Department of Government Efficiency. What would you, speak to that issue generally speaking, and then what is the congressional role in this cleanup, John?
Well, we see, no doubt that a lot of this is happening accidentally because of just, misfeasance on the part of the Biden administration. But some of it was malfeasance, both by the administration itself and by the people tasked, with doing these things. And so there's a lot to be done here. I'm sure we've only scratched the tip of the iceberg here in terms of what was happening. So many of these things that we saw them doing in the last 60 to 90 days, I serve on the Financial Services Committee. Over the weekend, the president forced Rohit Chopra to step down as director of this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because he was continuing to do things that, frankly, were counterproductive. In that case, it was enforcement actions and rulemakings and things of that sort that are just damaging to the economy. But so many of the spending-related things that were being done and contracts that were being signed and attempts by Biden administration officials to tie the hands of their successors, we've only begun to scratch the surface of that. And so it's disappointing. On the first hand. On the second hand, it points us in the direction of the things that we've got to do. And obviously, the President Trump, has moved quickly to undo many of those things. But there's real and lasting damage. I just am working now on a letter to try to get to the bottom of just how much President Biden's selling of materials at the southern border wall that we had already purchased and that, when he stopped construction and then started selling off those materials. This is going to cost American taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. That's just totally unnecessary, self-inflicted wound by the Biden administration.
Congressman John Rose, our guest, discussing the final years of the Biden administration and really the Biden administration in its totality and the sea change that we've experienced over the last 2 weeks. In the halls of Congress, and I know that because we talked to you enough, John. I know that you're supportive of this shrinkage of, the bureaucracy of government, the deep state as we call it. We see this example of USAID and how a good program developed over decades and over generations into being just a money funneling operation. It seems. What is the role of Congress in terms of that shrinkage? Obviously, these things are authorized by Congress. What is the relationship between you and the federal, the executive branch, in other words, and how do you and your colleagues receive this? I would expect the conservatives receive it pretty good, and the Democrats not so much.
Sure. Well, that's true. You just see this waste across the spectrum, and when you say authorized. I think the correct term probably is that Congress in many cases, or in most cases, initiated these things, but in some cases they've gone unauthorized for years and years and years. We really have to use the power of the purse that Congress holds to reclaim, control of the federal government and to rein in the degree of discretion. We're happy to see President Trump taking and using executive action as broadly as he is. But frankly, it's a bad sign because we know that somewhere down the line, we don't know when, there'll be a Democratic president again in all likelihood, and they'll just reverse all of these actions. And so Congress has got to do everything we can to eliminate the power of the of the executive to do these things that so many times are not what the American people will want and are wasting of the precious resources that we have.
Fox News reported earlier today, Congressman, that some House Freedom Caucus members are pushing for a few deeper cuts. We are told that, and I'm just reading from the article here, a key vote to advance conservative policy in a bill has been delayed, putting House Republicans behind in their schedule to enact President Donald Trump's agenda. The House Budget Committee had initially aimed to go through and approve legislation this week, but a source familiar with planning tells Fox News it is no longer the case because some want deeper cuts within the Budget Committee. What, if anything, do you know about this? And is there a schism here, or is it just a matter of working out the finer details?
I would describe it more as a matter of working out the finer details. I think that Republicans broadly understand that President Trump has a mandate and that we have a limited window here to accomplish what the American people sent him and us here to accomplish. So I don't fault members for fighting for the best outcomes possible. There's going to be a lot of that every day where we need to be working on the details to get them right. And we'll make a few mistakes, no doubt, but I think we can't let perfect be the enemy of good. So I think, now is the time to have a few of those fights to try to get as conservative an outcome as we want. I favor that as well, by the way. So I want to see us go as far as we can, but not at risk of losing the war. So we've got to fight these battles, and I think that's what you're seeing happen. That can slow things down a little bit. That's fine if it leads to a better outcome, but we all have to keep our eye focused on the prize, which is to get the reconciliation process through and get it through in a timely way to not only make the cuts that are necessary, but give the president the leeway he needs to get things done, like completing the border wall, like completing the roundup of illegal immigrants in the country that have committed crimes. I mean, all those things we want to make sure the president has the tools that he needs. And doing reconciliation is a precursor to that in many cases.
Well, and can you describe in simple terms why budget reconciliation is necessary? I mean, is it just as simple as the threshold being 50 versus 60 in the United States Senate? And, I mean, a razor-thin majority in the House, too, but only a simple majority needed in the House. In the Senate, am I understanding this correctly? It would take 60 if you went through the normal process, and so you're left with reconciliation, correct?
That's exactly right. All the discussion about reconciliation is driven because of the normal need for 60 votes to move something in the Senate. We have 53. We would need 60. If we have to get Democrat votes in order to make something happen, then, obviously it'll be much less desirable in terms of what the American people have said they want. So that's what's driving reconciliation, and that it's a term that most people don't really follow. But basically the concept is we pass a budget that kind of is the blueprint for what we're going to do, and then we're reconciling the spending or the appropriations to what that budget calls for. That's the process. And when that's what you're doing, you only have to have 50 votes in the Senate. That makes it, or a majority, 51 votes in the Senate to get that done. And so that's why we're going to use that process. And so then the quest for us, which we've seen the Democrats do effectively in the past, is how much can we squeeze in there? It's supposed to only be used for spending matters. But, of course, it's hard for spending not to affect policy and vice versa. So that's the question, is how many of the more important changes can we make that fix problems that will be more long-lasting? So not just about funding the government in the current and next year, the current year and next year, but also about trying to get as much done as we can to kind of right the ship for the future.
Congressman John Rose is with us on the Newsmaker Hotline this afternoon on the Matt Murphy Show, discussing activities over the last 2 weeks. I mean, breakneck speed. Let's talk trade. I was very excited to talk with you, Congressman, about the trade wars between Mexico and Canada. But gosh, the trade war only lasted about 10 hours. I mean, I understand China's a more long-term deal, but there were, Chuck Schumer's there on Capitol Hill. I guess he's doing what he's doing. He's holding up avocados. He's holding up, Corona beer, suggesting that all of these prices are going to go up. I feel like your compatriots on the other side of the aisle know exactly what Donald Trump's doing. They're just kind of playing dumb to make it seem worse than it actually is. Describe to us your perspective on these types of negotiations and how, yes, we might risk some short-term pain for long-term benefit down the road for accomplishing the goals the president wants to accomplish.
I think that's exactly right. I think you've stated it well. I do think there's a larger backdrop, which is that, and the president talks about this, really since World War II, the United States has kind of adopted the posture of free trade almost no matter what. No matter whether it was fair trade, we erred on the side of free trade. And there was this post-World War II mentality about that. I was trained and educated as a free trader myself. But what I've come to understand is if free trade doesn't lead to fair trade, then it's not in the best interests of the United States. And so that's the larger backdrop. We have a lot of trading partners. In fact, I would argue almost every trading partner around the world that's taken advantage of the American mindset that free trade is a positive thing that's good for the world. And so the rest of the world hasn't really played fairly with the United States. And President Trump, I think, is addressing that. But I think he also is using one of the most effective tools he has in his arsenal to achieve other policy outcomes like controlling the border, controlling illegal immigration, getting our neighbors to stand up to their responsibilities in terms of letting their countries be used as avenues for trafficking both humans and illegal contraband into the country. And so you see him doing that very effectively, I would say, with Canada, Mexico, and even with Panama. And I think you'll see him use that tool to achieve other objectives with our allies and partners around the world in terms of getting them to live up to their defense obligations and take responsibility for their own defense and for the defense of keeping open trading lanes around the world. So it's really a school in how to use negotiating tools. And the Democrats are, quick to come out and cry about the details, but we saw the absolute absence of action by President Biden in terms of opening markets and using trade as a tool to achieve objectives for the good of America. And so President Trump is going to put on a clinic for how to do that.
I might be putting the cart a little before the horse, but this question comes up from Sally on the super text line, John. Isn't the reconciliation bill that you guys are talking about for last year's budget ending this year in October? If so, when are we going to start working on this year's spending bills? There's a great expectation that Congress will kind of return to a sense of normalcy with regard to how we do our budgets. Are you hopeful that that will happen? And are you hopeful that we'll get in front of our budgets and not be last minute on this like it seems we've been over these last 6, 7, 8 years?
I am hopeful about that, and she is right that we are working on the 2025 fiscal year appropriations, which would end on September 30th of this year. This is why we have, as a majority, we have two bites at the apple this year, because we can use reconciliation to go back and pick up the current fiscal year that we're nearing the halfway mark of. And in so doing, accomplish a lot of objectives by having that available to us. And then we'll turn our attention very quickly to the 2026 fiscal year that would be beginning October 1st of this year and going through September 30th of 2026. So those are the two bites we have. In the normal order, we should be passing the budget for the 2026 fiscal year here in the springtime or in the winter, January, February, March timeframe, and then taking up the appropriations bills. And everyone should remember the House actually has done a pretty good job the last couple of years.
That's true.
We've gotten a lot of that work done. We passed all the appropriations bills out of committee last year, and we got 7 or 8 of them across the finish line in the House before we ran into difficulties. And by contrast, the Senate didn't lift a finger. So under the direction of Chuck Schumer. So I think the stage is set for us to do better this time, and I hope we get on track and make that happen.
John, when I get a chance to talk with you or Tim Burchett or Scott Desjardins or any of your other colleagues in the House, they always remind me of that. Marcia and Bill never do. I don't know. but it is true, and it's not Haggerty or Blackburn's fault. Don't get me wrong. Listen, it's always good to catch up with you, John. Always good to get your perspective out of Washington, D.C. We'll do it again very soon. Thank you for your time today.
Absolutely. It's a great honor and privilege to represent the people of Tennessee, and thank you for the opportunity to be on WTN today.
There's Congressman John Rose, 25 after the hour. We will speak on that, get your thoughts on it, 615-737-9986 right after this. Holy shnikes, it's hot. I mean, it's 70 degrees in some places yesterday. And, there's a lot of disagreement about what the temperature is now because I've heard from a lot of you, but somewhere in the 60s or 70s, one way or the other. Your heater and your AC, it's kind of running double time because you're turning the heater on in the mornings, then maybe you're popping the AC in the afternoons if it gets a little stuffy in your home. One way or the other, if it's not working properly, if your heater's not ready, if your AC's not ready, call Jeff Eddy, an efficient heating and cooling, a smaller company with big service and big results. I know that there are a lot of HVAC businesses around, and I know that it's tough to find someone that you can trust. That's what I'm here for. I'm telling you that Jeff Eddy's going to do the job the right way. He's going to do it right by you, and he's going to do it for the lowest possible amount of money. Obviously, profit's not a dirty word, but that doesn't mean that you need to be taken advantage of. Sadly, sometimes that comes in the form of just recommending a new unit because they make more money that way. Jeff Eddy's not going to do this. He understands you're a baller on a budget, and you need to get maximum life out of that heating unit. That's why he's going to come in and he's going to fix what ails the system. If it's time, he'll tell you it's time. They're an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. They can recommend a brand new unit for you. And when they say that it's time, you know that they're giving you the honest evaluation. 615-784-4424, 784-4424, or efficienthvac.net. Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about spicy and easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
It doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
4:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, Metro Police spokesman Don Aaron telling the media about the shooting investigation that has shut down 65 northbound between 440 and Wedgwood Avenue. He says it all started with an attempted robbery at Green Hills Mall. A man carrying expensive merchandise confronted in the parking lot. There was a struggle. The robber then got into a Tesla, and the Tesla took off.
We believe, based on what we can put together at this point, that there was at least one shot fired around the Tesla. The driver of the Tesla fled the mall with the robber passenger. On 440, they tried to enter 65. The driver was already wounded at that point and crashed into the tree here behind me.
Now, the driver of the Tesla died at the hospital. The passenger tossed away a gun after the crash. That person was taken in for questioning. As for the shopper at the mall,
we do not, at this point, have the shopper identified. He was likely scared. He fled the mall. We need to speak with him to understand exactly his point of view as to what occurred. At this point, we believe he's a victim. He was a victim of a robbery that was taking place in the parking lot of the mall. He fought back, struggled against the person who was trying to rob him of his shopping bags. At some point, a shot takes place, and this person has fled.
Aaron says surveillance footage from the mall indicates the shopper came out of one of the high-end stores with his packages while this Tesla was driving around looking for someone to rob. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Okay, 65 northbound still shut down between 440 and Wedgwood Avenue for that shooting investigation. Also, looks like a crash now blocking the left two lanes, 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane. We've got the right two lanes blocked, 24 eastbound at Briley Parkway by a crash. And then in Berry Hill, 440 westbound near 65, the right shoulder is blocked by a crash. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
When you deal with Stultz Co., and I'm going to tell you how to go to see some of these incredible barn dominiums and pole barns and other customized structures that Stultz Co. deals with. When you talk with Stultz Co., when you meet with the professionals that they are, you will understand that they pride themselves on not only building quality structures, but higher quality buildings at a more reasonable price than anyone else throughout Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky. Their process is simple. They want to know what you're looking for. They will do excavating and site prep. They will get your foundation taken care of, do the exterior framing, and then the sheathing, they call it. And depending on what you're looking for, they do the interior framing. And man, oh man, it's so good, whether it's a pole barn or an event space, or maybe it's a she shed or a man space. Whatever you're looking for on your property, they can do it at Stultz Co. for a reasonable price, better price point than you would pay for brick and mortar construction. Normally, you can get in on a barn dominium for a much lower price point. Find out more by going to StultzCo.com. You don't need to listen to me. You need to go to Stultz Co. Go to STOLTZ Co.com. StultzCo.com. That's StultzCo.com, and see the beauty that they are providing throughout the course of Middle Tennessee, and dream your next project. Make it a reality with Stultz Co.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, 37 minutes after 4 o'clock. Thank you for being around with us. We appreciate you. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now, 615-737-9986. What has excited you most about the first 2 weeks of the Trump administration? I mean, obviously, I think it's a, I don't think it's an unfair question. I'm just curious where you are on it. Obviously, the boots on the ground on the southern border, the rebuilding of the southern border wall, that's a lot that's going on there. In conjunction with that, you have the Tom Homan deportations, which would be my vote. I don't want to bury the lead here, but it would be my vote. Tom Homan has been an absolute tornado of activity with regard to what he is planning, what he has planned during the transition, and what he has been doing over the first 2 weeks of Donald Trump's presidency. Just moments ago, Donald Trump sat down with Benjamin Netanyahu and expressed his desire, and liberals are already freaking out about this. That Donald Trump expressed it was his desire that we would see the Palestinian people in a better situation and perhaps a different settlement type situation than they are currently in. In other words, that they would not necessarily be resettled before the rebuilding of the Gaza Strip, a portion of land that was given to the Palestinians. I mean, the Palestinians do not have a place to land. The Palestinians do not have, the Palestinian people, sadly, are led by terrorists. They are governed by terrorists. They are funded by a terrorist state. And all they know is terrorism and hostility. And they have been taught, conditioned, brainwashed, whatever you want to call it. They have been conditioned to the point where they do not believe that they should, and they do not believe that they will live in conjunction with the Jewish people, amongst the Jewish people. Sad to say, but true. One of the hidden results that most in mainstream media will not talk about, poll after poll after poll indicates that the brainwashing is real amongst the Palestinian population. In other words, when we talk about innocent Palestinians, they may not have done anything directly to engage in violence against the Jewish people or the state of Israel. But if you ask them if Israel should have the right to exist, they say no. Well,
if you have a disagreement with someone and you can't get beyond the fact that they don't think you should have the right personally or as a nation exist, well, then we don't have much else to talk about in terms of coordinating some sort of compromise position where we can both peacefully coexist. We can't peacefully coexist if you do not believe that I have a right to exist. And so Donald Trump sat down. I had it here, and pardon me, I've got to find it somewhere. This just happened moments ago, where Donald Trump was sitting down with Benjamin Netanyahu and speaking to some of these reporters' questions regarding. Is that it? No. That's the Secretary of the Department of Education, an organization that's apparently not going to last very much longer. I'll get a couple of these clips for you in just a moment. I'm a little bit behind on my X screen here. But your thoughts on that, the first 2 weeks. Plus, I'm also curious, as we open up the phones, your thoughts on my conversation with Jack Johnson yesterday. It occurred to me that Jack made his position very clear, Senate Majority Leader, regarding our immigration bill that just passed and is set to be signed by the governor of the state. Our new immigration policy allows for the state to potentially prosecute individual communities that vote in a way that the state considers to be inconsistent with state law. And if they do so, they not only lose their position of authority on a city council or a county commission, they could go to jail. They could be charged with a felony. And I expressed my opinion that I don't know that I can agree with the concept of weaponizing state law against local governments and turning it into a criminal act. I understand weaponizing it from a political perspective, and if local governments consistently act inconsistent with state law or federal law, then they need to be dealt with. One would hope that the local population would deal with them through voting. But if not, if the government of the state of Tennessee wants to put some sort of remedy on the books, I'm not against that remedy, except that in this case, they made it a felony. Not to act against the state, not to act. I just consider action and a vote. I understand one could consider a vote to be an affirmative act. I'm not saying that I'm settled on this argument. It's just the place that I'm at right now, and I'm curious if anyone heard that conversation and if you have any thoughts on it at 615-737-9986. Kelly is next up in Murfreesboro. Hello, Kelly. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm great, Kelly.
Fan.
Oh, thank you.
Time. I love what you're saying. I love what you're doing. God bless you.
Thank you, brother.
You asked what was the thing that I was most excited about. Well, you know, after just a landslide election, which was just great, the fact that they're closing the borders and not letting people in that don't need to belong here, and then getting rid of the bad guys. Getting rid of the people that shouldn't be here, getting rid of the people that need to come through the right way and not the wrong way. I've got, I live in the suburbs in Murfreesboro. I have a good living. My wife does too. I've got 3 adult kids live with me. My taxes are killing me. It's just, man, it's hard. There's some hard times right now. My kids having a rough time just getting their footing. College educated kids and stuff. And it's just hard on the American people, and we're just shelling out all this money to everybody, and it's just killing me. And I'm glad that they're trying to right that ship, and I know it's going to take a long time to get to that. But I know I'm rambling, but I just
I absolutely love it. And well, a lot of these issues have a common theme associated with them. And Kelly, thank you for the call, and thank you for the kind words. You're very good to say them, and I strive every day to be worthy of them. There's a common thread associated with border security, associated with foreign security, associated with eliminating foreign conflicts, and the desire that Donald Trump has to eliminate foreign aggression and to have peace in our time. He spoke about this earlier today. The idea of shrinking the size of government to the point that we're not overspending by billions and billions and trillions of dollars on an annual basis. We overspend so much, it's difficult to contemplate or comprehend. The theme is this. that this has been going along so long and the ship of state is so large that those that don't care about the status quo, those that would prefer to continue the status quo because they benefit from it financially or otherwise, they would claim to you that these are matters that cannot be changed, that too many people would suffer, that too much disruption would occur, that none of this can be accomplished in the manner. Most of these programs that are burdening the American people, that do not any longer benefit the American people, were created in the 1960s and 1970s. They have been around for a relatively short period of time in terms of the arc of our nation's history. And they have not solved the issues that they came to solve, or they have adjusted their goals to further the organization as opposed to furthering what we were told the mission was. Example, FEMA. When FEMA was created out of whole cloth by the Carter administration, we were told that the Federal Emergency Management Agency was designed to intervene and act if and only if local and state governments could not do it on their own. And if and only if those local and state governments asked the federal government to intervene and to help, that's when the federal government would step in. It was to be a last resort, not a first option. Well, nowadays in 2025, we well know that it is a first option. It is a first line of defense because it is considered to be free money, even in more conservative-minded states. This was not the design of FEMA. It has lost its way. The Department of Education, another example. USAID, another example. And sadly, as they lose their charter or mission statement, they also become corrupted in how these agencies are executed. And in the case of USAID, they became so powerful that they considered themselves above the arc of any elected office, of any elected government. I mean, Marco Rubio said as much the other day. Marco Rubio felt the need to course correct on this issue in as much as he is now over USAID for as long as it continues to exist. And he was told as Secretary of State that he didn't have any authority in all of this. Marco Rubio speaking to Fox News on why USAID thinks itself to be above the law.
You're now the head of USAID. The head of Doge, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do you agree with that?
They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs that upset the host government for whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States.
I mean, this is an organization that is begging to be shut down and should be. And any good that organization does. And look, obviously the liberals are going to point to those things that are positive in terms of what it accomplishes. And there are some goals that still USAID does accomplish that are noble in terms of assisting, other nations with clean water. I mean, and it all goes back to the original charter. We're going to give you clean water. We're going to give you electricity. We're going to find you a way to get roads to and from various villages. We're going to get you into the 21st century to the point that you can perhaps build an infrastructure of your own. And we're going to encourage you to do all of this through a representative republic or democratic form of government. That's the trade-off. Those are noble pursuits. But sadly, for the most part, USAID just they grift money from the American taxpayer and they funnel it to projects that they don't want you to know anything about, that don't do any worthwhile good. Patrick, Kathy, and Kenny, we'll get to you as promised in just a moment on the Matt Murphy Radio Show. It's 10 minutes until the top of the hour on Super Talk. Hello, friends. Matt Murphy for the Glock store. February is a month where we think about love, mainly because of Valentine's Day. February is a good month to do something indoors as well, because oftentimes it's rather cold. What about doing something with your significant other? I don't know, like a couples training session at the one and only Glock store and their incredible Shoot 270 rooms, never lanes, rooms. February is the great month to do this because if you mention my name, Matt Murphy, when you call to schedule your session, you will get two for the price of one. In other words, you'll pay for one person and the other person is free. Now, it's up to you to figure out who's who, right? Male, female, you can split the cost, whatever. If your partner has never been to Shoot 270, you need to explain to them that this is different than any other experience they've ever had. It's a personalized room. It's a private shooting room with an instructor just for you and your partner, a professional that will tailor the session for your level of expertise. That's what it's all about, right? Making you a better and more confident shooter at the end of your session, both you and your loved one. Two shooters for the price of one for the month of February. Mention my name when you look them up online at glockstore.com or shoot270.com, or stop by and say hello. Minutes away from the airport, worth the drive from anywhere, just off of Elm Hill Pike on Airlane Drive. It's the one and only Glock store.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Metro Police say it was an attempted robbery at a mall that led to the shooting and crash that is now shutting down part of a busy interstate. We've got that story and more at 5 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Man, that's a crazy tale, and we have it for you on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's busy at the wheel of the newsroom, gathering those headlines, latest news on that story, and much, much more coming up in just 4 or so minutes on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. In the meantime, Patrick is on the road. Patrick, you are next on the show. Hello, Patrick.
How are you doing this afternoon?
Fabulous, sir. I hope you are.
I am. So a couple things I would like to address. Number one, I think we should control our borders, 100%. We're never going to close our borders. We just want people to come through the front door. If you try to break in my house, you're going to deal with the consequences. My front door is open, though, just like this country. So we should control our borders. But to criminalize a vote, to me, is a very slippery slope to where you can take and move that along to another subject that can harm our democracy. So I understand the reason why they're doing this. They're trying to control our borders, and they don't want I don't want sanctuary cities in Tennessee. I don't want people from all over the world thinking they can come here because they snuck in and make a place to live. That's not how that works. So I think we need to control our borders, but to criminalize a vote, that can get scary really, really fast, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just don't like it. I don't like it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Number two is diversity, equality, and inclusion needs to go out the window. It should be on merits, 100% across the board. And I think that should go across our country, and even as far as getting rid of the electoral college, because that's the definition of equality and diversity and inclusion. But we no longer need to be barren on aspect of, well, we need a quota of a certain amount of people or a certain amount of women or a certain amount of this or that. It should be who's best qualified for the position, and no longer worry about it. Well, man, we need a transgender person. No, I don't want to play pretend with somebody. If that's your life, live it, but don't make your rights infringe upon mine. And I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I think he's the best person for the job right now. And I hope and I pray that the man is able to do what he needs to do. Mexico's already bowed. He threatened Mexico, and look, quick, okay, let's work with you. And Canada's going to do the same thing.
Well, they already have.
China's going to do the same thing because we have to. Sometimes you have to parent tough. Sometimes you have to give the dad voice and tell them, hey, this is how it's going to be. And if you don't like it, well, you're going to suffer the consequences.
I like it. I like it.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you do too, Patrick. One thing, and it's not a small thing, but I would just say, you mean equity. You don't mean equality. And that's a very, very important distinction. Equality is the sense that people in the United States of America are not going to be treated differently based on a condition of their birth that they had nothing to do with. That's equality, and that's a good thing, and we should promote that. Equity is an equality of outcome, and that is never something that we should strive for because that leads to socialism and leads to everyone being depressed in terms of their identity and their freedoms. So I would just, make the distinction between those two things. But great call, Patrick. We'll get to Kathy and Kenny coming up in just a moment. Halfway home on this edition of the Matt Murphy Show. I'm excited about it. I hope you are as well. Here comes some headlines on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver in the newsroom.
Five o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic coming up in 5 minutes. Metro Police say a robbery led to a shooting and a crash. It was a robbery of a shopper carrying expensive merchandise out of one of the high-end stores at Green Hills Mall that led to this investigation that has shut down 65 northbound at 440. Here's Metro Police spokesman Don Aaron.
There were witnesses at the mall who saw this tussle taking place. Initially, some of the witnesses thought it was a carjacking. But as we have advanced the investigation, gotten our first look at surveillance video, see the person coming out of the mall with the shopping bags from at least one high-end store, if not more, we think that these people in the Tesla were driving around looking for someone to rob, and they picked him.
So the driver of the Tesla ended up crashing while trying to access 65 northbound from 440. That person, police say, had been shot and died at the hospital. A passenger in the Tesla allegedly tossed a pistol over a guardrail, and he's being questioned at police headquarters. Police are looking for the shopper at the mall who was robbed and then fled. They think that person is a victim. They're asking that person to come forward. Over at the state capitol, legislation's been filed that challenges a Supreme Court decision in 1982, which gave children who are in the U.S. illegally a right to a free public education. The bill filed in Tennessee by House Majority Leader William Lamberth and Senate Finance Chair Bo Watson of Hickson seeks to allow local school districts and charter schools to opt out of enrolling a child who is not here legally. And the Unified Command at the scene of the Washington, D.C. plane crash announcing all 67 victims killed in that helicopter and plane collision have been recovered from the Potomac River, with 66 of those remains positively identified. Sam Sweeney says closing this painful part of the recovery process will now allow a faster removal of the wreckage.
This is a long process, but it will certainly now make the job a bit easier for these recovery teams as they move the wreckage out. Every time they found human remains, they had to stop working out of respect for the dead and properly bring those bodies on board those barges and get them to the medical examiner. Now they can work a bit faster.
Hope is at the area of Philadelphia, where a medical transport plane crashed Friday evening will start to recover overnight.
The NTSB has finished their work on site and either has left or they'll be leaving Philadelphia shortly.
That is the city manager of Philadelphia, Adam Thiel. He says the investigation's moving into another phase. Cleaners are going to be out there overnight with the hope that businesses can reopen starting tomorrow. 7 people were killed when that plane crashed for some reason not yet known. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. Okay, it looks like the right 2 lanes are the only lanes blocked now. 65 northbound between 440 and Wedgwood Avenue, where that shooting investigation is underway. We've got a crash blocking the right lane of 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane, and then the right shoulder blocked by a crash 24 eastbound at Briley Parkway. And then in Laverne, we've got a crash partially blocking the on-ramp 24 eastbound. This is from Waldron Road. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Just after 5 o'clock, my name is Matt Murphy, and conveniently, this is the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk 99.7 WT. And I so thank you being a part of the day. Whatever time you're able to give us, I sincerely appreciate it, whether it's 5 minutes in your car. Man, oh, man, given the traffic situation, you're not in your car for 5 minutes if you're anywhere around Nashville, Tennessee. It's been a mess so far, but we'll get through it together, friends. I just like the fact that it's just after 5 o'clock, and I just looked out of the brand new, our newly skinned studio. That's what they call. That's what they call it. It does kind of sound gross, doesn't it? You know, they skin a car. They put a skin on a car.
Put a wrap on a car.
Is that what they? Is that? Am I saying it wrong?
I don't know. There may be such thing, but I would say you wrap a car. Yeah, with the little vinyl stuff like sticker.
All right. Well, I'll defer to you. I'll call it a wrap then. Our newly wrapped studio.
Leatherface had a skinned car.
See what I mean? That's what it makes me think of. Skinning something.
That scene still gives me the creeps, man. That is one of Matt Murphy's all-time top 10 creepy scenes. And it's because of the girl screaming, and then when he grabs her and he gets behind the door and he slams that door, and it's just the silence. Yeah. And you got no idea what he's doing behind that door, but it's not good. You know that it's not good.
Nope.
I liked his dance moves when he'd hold the chainsaw over his head.
You look like, Ken Weaver, you look like the type of fella that's been to a Halloween party or two as Leatherface.
No.
No?
No, I went as Bill Clinton one time.
Did you now?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Wore a three-piece suit and carried a McDonald's sack.
Uh-huh. I got some cigars out in the car if you want to see some of those.
I said that a lot.
You didn't wear any of those high-water joggers that he used to wear, those little skimpy jogging shorts?
I should have done that.
That would be good.
I should have done that, yeah.
Well, I just say that it's nice to look outside of the friendly confines of our brand-new studio and still see a little bit of light in the 5 o'clock hour.
Yeah,
that's true. That's nice.
Even though it's overcast, it's still some daylight.
Hey, by the way, it's been 2 weeks. When's Trumpy Trump going to get on a daylight saving deal? How about that?
He's too busy. He's too busy freaking everybody out.
Oh, whatever. We're solving Middle East peace and shutting down the southern border. Let's get to the real deal. Let's get to daylight saving time. Come on, man.
Oh, man, he is. I'm telling you, he has got people in a tizzy over what he just said about the Palestinians.
He did. And recognizing, and we're going to play some of the news conference. He's got a news conference upcoming with Benjamin Netanyahu. And as soon as that news conference happens, we're going to carry some of that for you live during the show. I think it's that important because I am certain that there will be questions about some of the comments that he made. So what they do, they sit down and right before or right after they go into private conversation. Oftentimes it's before they ask the media to politely get out. They, will speak to some reporters and ask some informal or answer some informal questions that are thrown at them. And one of those questions, I had it up a minute ago. Dadgummit, I probably won't be able to pull it in a fair amount of time. But Donald Trump was asked a question about whether or not the people in the Gaza area, in the Gaza Strip, will be, quote unquote, allowed to go back into the Gaza Strip during such time as the reconstruction is going on. I mean, the place has been leveled. Sadly, Hamas made the decision to shield themselves behind civilians. Hamas, they are the bad actors here. Israel is not. Israel has to protect itself. Israel has to find those that attacked and killed their citizens on October 7th, 2023, and destroy them. And anyone in their way, they have to do that as well if they are actors in concert with the terrorist organization that is Hamas. Sadly, Hamas chooses to hide behind civilians. Hamas chooses to hide underneath hospitals. Hamas chooses to hide in schools. And because of that, it makes the Israeli position, the IDF's position, impossible. All that to say, I don't know that many of the Palestinians are necessarily good actors here, or bad actors for that matter, but some of them are innocent of any and all of this activity exterior to their just trying to live their lives. But he was asked about whether or not they'd be allowed to come back, and he said, well, his hope is that they would find themselves in a situation where they wouldn't have to, where they would be in such a good situation that they would not be resettled back into the Gaza Strip. Well, that has caused an absolute firestorm of criticism on social media platforms. We'll get into that. And for some reason, I cannot find it. And I had the clip, and I don't have it now. But I'll get it. I'll get it, and we'll air it for you coming up in a couple of minutes. 615-737-9986, our telephone number. By the way, in the midst of all of this, with Donald Trump accomplishing all of these things, he's also going to the Super Bowl. Did it surprise either of you guys that he will be the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl?
Is that so?
That's what I heard last night.
Interesting.
That
I never would have guessed that.
Sitting president of the United States of America has attended a Super Bowl. He will be the first. That surprised the heck out of me.
Yeah.
But he'll be there in New Orleans. One of the safest places on planet Earth would be inside of the Superdome, but you better bring some big money if you expect to get inside of there, as prices are in the thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars just to get into the stadium. Once you get in, you are secure, baby. Whether or not the city is secure probably remains to be seen. Sadly, they did not secure themselves on New Year's Day, but hopefully everything will be safe and sound in New Orleans come Super Bowl Sunday, which is this Sunday. Kathy is next up in Madison. Kathy, thank you for the call. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Well, first of all, when you're talking about a skin, that's like in Minecraft when you change your character's appearance.
You know, that's kind of the way that I was looking at it, too. But I think I maybe misspoke when I said that we had reskinned the studio. It does have a little bit of a macabre flavor to it, you know? Do you, Kathy,
Yeah.
do you play Minecraft a lot?
No, but my son does.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, what's on your mind regarding Tennessee immigration, Kathy?
Well, yesterday when you're talking to Jack Johnson, you brought up an example about the Tennessee abortion ban. And I want to expand on that a little bit because the Tennessee legislature voted for a bill which went against federal statute. That vote was not a criminal act. If they had gone to the next level and started shutting down abortion clinics in Tennessee, that would have been a criminal act. So by the same token, I think that voting for a sanctuary law in a city, like if that happened in Nashville, that vote would not be a criminal act. But if ICE showed up in Nashville and Freddie and the Metro Council started blocking their efforts to deport people, that would be a criminal act, and ICE would be right there to deal with it and to take them into custody, and so there is no need for the state of Tennessee to even be involved.
You make my point exactly, Kathy. That is precisely the point that I was trying to make, and you just said it better than I did. You said it better in 30 seconds than I did in 30 minutes yesterday. But here's the point that I was making to Jack, and I think he heard it, and we just simply disagree on it. Right now, as the law is written in the state of Tennessee, that vote that you talked about is a criminal act.
But I don't think it should be any more than voting for an abortion ban.
I don't either. Well, thank you, Kathy, for the call. Thank you for Kathy's right. I mean, look, I think Kathy has the assessment dead on. And that was the disagreement, that what constitutes an affirmative act? Is it the vote, or is it the action that may or may not follow the vote? Is the vote performative in nature, or do they put action behind it? I disagree in principle with the idea of criminally penalizing someone for voting in a dumb way or in a way that's inconsistent with the law. The court systems are designed to handle that. And that was my point that I made to Jack yesterday. Now, if there is a sheriff that is actively violating what is state law, then that's something completely different. And just as Kathy eloquently stated it, there's a difference in passing a law that you know will be challenged in a court system because of existing federal law and acting on it. Ray writes and says if a city council makes an illegal vote, which is to make a sanctuary city, it should have teeth, Matt. How else do you recommend they deter the city council like Memphis or Nashville from doing that? By passing a law saying that if any action happens as a result of the vote, then that will be considered a criminal act. It's pretty simple. Just distinguishing the difference between voting on something and doing something. Or you can pass legislation that would, if a vote occurs within a city municipality or a city council situation or a county municipality in which the leadership of that county, it is determined they actively voted against what is existing state law, then boot them out of office. Remove them from office. Why is removing them from office not enough? Why do we have to make it a felony that would put them in jail? Look, I understand that it's easy to get caught. I mean, I don't begrudge people that disagree with this. It's a nuanced subject, and I understand that. I understand that we want to put teeth. But here's the deal, Ray, and I'll pick on you because you asked the question. What has the city of Memphis or the city of Nashville done to step in front of Donald Trump and ICE since he became president of the United States? I don't know of anything. Oh, they talk a good game. But the city of Nashville, the city of Memphis, and frankly, the state of Tennessee has nothing to say about the federal government when it comes to immigration. Consistently, the courts have ruled that while the federal government doesn't have, I mean, it's gotten its tentacles in areas that it never should have been involved in terms of states' rights and the 10th Amendment. But one of the things that is clearly defined as a federal responsibility is our right to protect our borders federally and to do something about individuals that violate that protection and get into our country illegally. That is solely the responsibility of the federal government and has been considered that since our founding. So I would just distinguish between the vote itself and the action that might be carried out post-vote. 19 after the hour. Speaking of action, we're going to go ahead and take a break because we're anticipating Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump speaking before the assembled press in a joint press conference. A press conference the way that it should be in terms of, I mean, the last 4 years with Joe Biden, these things were performative. They were all scripted out. They answered 2 or 3 questions from reporters and moved on with their day. This, I would expect to be a little more freeform and very compelling considering some of the conversation that Donald Trump has already had regarding the resettlement of Gaza and the inability for Palestinians to get back in there until the rebuilding has been done. It is 20 minutes after the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Holy moly, Grace Point Healthcare just does it differently, friends. If you've never been, you've got to go and talk to the good people of Grace Point about the way they do their business. It is called modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Obviously, they're using the most modern medical approaches and techniques, but at the same time, they're doing it in a way that you would remember from your grandma, your grandpa. In other words, it's affordable, convenient, it is comprehensive medicine, it is direct pay from your primary care physician, and they don't allow the insurance company to get in the way of the relationship between you and your doctor. As a result, you know exactly what your medical procedures are costing you. And, oh, by the way, for doctor visits, like, you know, when you're sick and you need to go to the doc and see what's up, that is a $69 a month payment plan for the Smart Care plan at Grace Point Healthcare. And that's it. And you don't pay any more for your doctor's visits, unlimited throughout the course of the year. Now, they also include basic labs in that. If you need anything additional, they'll let you know up front exactly what you're talking about. You don't have to engage in the basic Smart Care plan, however. You can pay by the visit as well at Grace Point. It is a different way of doing things, and I absolutely love it. It gets us back to the way that it used to be. Grace Point Healthcare treats you in a natural way when possible. They never let pharmaceutical companies get in their way in that regard. And they're a military veteran-owned practice, and I absolutely love that as well. Call them today at 599-6868. They're in Franklin, 599-6868. Schedule your next medical appointment with Grace Point Healthcare.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A robbery and a shooting and the closure of part of a busy interstate near downtown. This story and more coming up at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thanks much, Ken Weaver. 25 minutes after the hour, Matt Murphy and Super Talk 99.7 WTN anticipating a joint press conference with Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald J. Trump. Those assembled have not yet taken their seats, which indicate to me that they've not yet gotten the 2-minute warning. You know the way they do this thing. I mean, I'm sure Brian has described it to you over the years during the drive with Brian Wilson. I'm not as familiar as Brian was, but I do know how they do their thing. And, you know, they offer the networks the 2-minute warning, and once the 2-minute warning happens, that gives them the indication they need to wrap up their stand-up, or they need to wrap up whatever they're doing. They can go to break if they need to go to break, and when they do so, they eventually get them there on time. They give them the countdown. They've not done that yet, so we're anticipating that. But I bet you if the feed that I'm looking at is any indication, it'll be in the next 10 minutes or so. Ray writes in and says, in response to, our conversation about the Tennessee immigration law. And look, once again, it might be picking nits, but I stand beside the premise that right now, as the law is written, it seems to me that even if I am in the minority, if I vote my conscience and I vote the manner in which I feel like my constituents would want me to vote, even if I know that my vote will go nowhere, even if I'm doing it as a way to take a stand against a state law or a federal law, I do not think that governments also elected by the constituency should be allowed to put me in jail as a result of that vote. Now, actions are different. The courts, I believe, are best designed to settle these disputes. And so if there is a disagreement about a state law versus a local ordinance, I would argue that more often than not, the state law is going to win unless the state law is blatantly unconstitutional. In this case, I wouldn't have a problem with it if it indicated that you had to take some level of action against the state law. And even then, the federal government can handle it. The federal law is already illegal to interfere with immigrations and custom enforcement. However, Ray responded and said, I've heard you say that you're all for Texas putting barbed wire in the river and keeping illegal aliens from crossing the border. What's the difference there, Matt? Well, I was all in favor of that, unless and until the Biden administration sued the state of Texas, arguing that it was their responsibility and not the state of Texas's responsibility to protect the citizens of the United States of America with regard to border policy. And guess what? I didn't like it very much, but the Biden administration won that argument. Now, I believe that it was different in as much as it was established law that the Biden administration was, in fact, violating in terms of their execution. The Biden administration, in that example, the Biden administration was left with arguing that they were doing their best. Guys, we're doing our best, and the state of Texas needs to get out of the way because we're doing our best to protect the border, and they're impeding our ability to do our best. Well, everyone with a brain knew that the Biden administration wasn't doing a damn thing to protect the southern border. They were lying to the courts. And it was based on, sadly, that lie that they were allowed to get away with that the courts ruled in their favor. The courts give broad latitude for the executive branch of government to exercise immigration policy in their own fashion. And when you elect a weak president who assigns immigration deterrence and immigration and border security to weak people like Alejandro Mayorkas, you get weakness in terms of that execution. Well, you get what you vote for. On the converse of that, you vote for strength when it comes to border security, you get strength. So, Ray says, I've heard you say that you were all for Texas doing this. I was all for Texas doing this as a workaround for the Biden administration not doing their job. But once the Biden administration challenged them in court, I'm sad to tell you that the Biden administration, the federal government, wins in that argument because the Constitution wins when it comes to border security. And Ray writes and says, but right now they're back doing it under Trump. Yeah, they're back doing it under Trump because Trump supports it. They're back doing it under Trump because Trump is in agreement. They're back doing it under Trump because Trump isn't challenging them that they are usurping the federal authority. I hope that makes sense. 3250 says, I'm still waiting to hear why Matt Murphy asked that lady if she plays Minecraft. And then, here it is. Does Matt play Minecraft? I don't know what Minecraft is. Is it a game? It's a game, right? It's a. Is it like that Fortnite?
Kinda, yeah. It's the one where everyone looks like blocks. Everything's like square blocks, so the characters
like little
look
Lego guys or whatever?
Yeah, kind of, sort of.
And then 3250 goes on to insult me further. Let's read on. Does Matt play Minecraft? He probably still uses wooden tools. We can't build this wall with just wooden tools, Matt. We need to help our boy out. Love the show, by the way. I asked her if she played Minecraft because she said, when I think of skins, I think of Minecraft. I thought, well,
yeah, she must play it.
You must play it.
Yeah.
And I will admit that I was stereotyping because she seemed like I just don't think of a relatively. I'm not suggesting her age, but relatively speaking, she seemed like a middle-aged woman, and I didn't think that was necessarily something that a middle-aged woman would do. That's all.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
What I'm going to go do is continue to dig this hole while Ken does the news. And hopefully by the time Ken is done with the news, I will have gotten out of it. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And right now, Metro Police say it was a robbery that led to a shooting that shut down I-65 just south of downtown today. Spokesman Don Aaron says there was a shot fired during a struggle between a shopper and a robber in the parking lot at Green Hills Mall. That shopper coming out of one of the high-end stores with a lot of packages. The robber, grabbing the packages, hopped into a Tesla. The driver of the Tesla later crashed, trying to get onto 65 from 440.
We have one gun that was recovered from here that was tossed over the guardrail by the passenger. We do not have another gun at this juncture. The driver of the Tesla has a gunshot wound. Now, did the shopper, did the robbery victim have a weapon during the tussle around the car? We don't know that yet.
Now, the driver of the Tesla died. The passenger's being questioned, and police are asking that shopper, who they say was robbed and who they say was a victim, to come forward. Here in Tennessee, state lawmakers going to be debating a bill that challenges a 43-year-old U.S. Supreme Court ruling. That 1982 SCOTUS ruling says children here illegally have a right to a free public education. Well, the legislation filed today by House Majority Leader William Lamberth and Senate Finance Chair Bo Watson of Hickson allows local school districts to opt out of enrolling a child who is in the country illegally. And in our nation's capital, meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu tonight, President Trump making the case for the relocation of Palestinians displaced by the war that Hamas started, saying the Gaza Strip has become a, quote, demolition site.
Gaza is not a place for people to be living. And the only reason they want to go back, and I believe this strongly, is because they have no alternative. What's the alternative? Go where? There's no other alternative. If they had an alternative, they'd much rather not go back to Gaza and live in a beautiful alternative that's safe.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, they have only 2 lanes blocked and now 65 northbound between 440 and Wedgwood Avenue. Those are the 2 right lanes that are blocked for that shooting investigation. Got a crash with the right shoulder block 40 eastbound after Fessler's Lane. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hello, friends. Matt Murphy. Tennessee Men's Clinic is your one-stop shop, gentlemen, for anything involving your energy level. And I want to talk to you about it because, I mean, it could be sleep. It could be something else affecting your energy, or it could be T levels. And if it's T levels, I understand that that can get to be a tricky and intimate conversation because it might have to deal with your personal relationship with your spouse or your loved one. Bottom line is this. If you're not feeling it and you're middle-aged and you just think you can whistle past that graveyard, man, you don't have to do that. There are 2 locations. One's in Cool Springs. That's the brand-new location for those of you south of the city. For those of you in and around the Nashville area or north of us, there's the Midtown location. This has been there since 2014. And they are designed, their urologists are designed to assist you in a confidential and professional manner to get you back right. Whether it's, not want to go to the gym, not feeling the energy to do that, or not feeling that intimacy can be a part of your life anymore, that can be destructive to a relationship. Folks, you need to get to the Tennessee Men's Clinic. Guys, do this. I promise. It will help you. Go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com or call 615-208-9090 to schedule an appointment. 208-9090 for Tennessee Men's Clinic.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Matt Murphy in the middle of downtown Franklin, Tennessee. We've talked so much about Savory Spice. I thought, why not show you the place? So let's go on in and see what's popping at Savory Spice. As I've always said, you will smell the spices even before you walk in. I can smell them right here in the doorway. Come on in and let's introduce you to the one and only Holly, who is the owner and proprietor of Savory Spice. Say hey, Holly.
Hello, everyone.
Now, enough about Holly. Let's talk about Spice and Easy products like the incredible taco soup, which, as I said, you put this in a crock pot, you put all the ingredients that it tells you to buy right there, you put the spices in, and it's so easy. So if you don't know what you're doing around the kitchen, it's a perfect way to find your way around the kitchen, as is the Mediterranean dill risotto. Now, for the holidays, pumpkin pie spice. What doesn't it have, Holly?
Pumpkin.
Doesn't have any pumpkin in it. That's a fun fact for all of you kids out there. Now, if you stop by Savory Spice, either in the Franklin location or at L&L Market, you can get yourself a sample of the dill dip, which is my absolute favorite. Just tell them Matt Murphy sent you to Savory Spice with purchase now. So come by Franklin or L&L Market in Nashville and come see Holly and the entire crew at Savory Spice.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So we're waiting on a press conference with Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. They're still meeting behind closed doors. When that happens, we will shift our attention to Washington, D.C. and the White House. Until such time, it's you, it's me, it's the Matt Murphy Radio Show. It's Ken Weaver in the newsroom, News Closet B, we like to call it. There's also Chris Webber. Coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, our good buddy J.K. Brister is going to stop by with us, talk to us about his perspective as a business owner as to the activity going on over the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's got a great shirt on, too. He just showed up. You'll see the shirt on Super Talk TV when he appears in the 6 o'clock hours. Good stuff. In the meantime, you know, there's a lot of news going on in the world, and there's a lot to say about the news that's happening in the world. But where else can you turn to find the nincompoops that exist among us? That's right. It's our show. That's right, because the three of us, Weber, Weaver, and Murphy, scour the entire globe. We look across this great nation of ours in our own communities, in our own backyards, and we find the nincompoops where they live and where they breathe, and we present them to you on a daily basis, and you get a vote on the nincompoop of the day. Hello, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, boys. Yeah.
And that traffic's gnarly, Ken.
Yes, it is.
Gnarly.
It's not as bad as it has been, though, dude.
True that. I don't know.
Knock on wood.
I mean, it's one thing to just shut her down. It's another thing to open up the one lane. I don't know which is worse.
Well, they got 2 lanes open now.
Well, that's not bad.
Oh, well, 65 northbound there. They got 2 lanes open now.
Well, I mean, I guess we take the good news. At least it's 65 northbound?
Yes.
That's true.
Yes.
65 northbound south of downtown.
South of the city.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Right, which will, obviously it's not going to cause you any solace if you're a part of it, but there it is.
No, it's not.
All right, gentlemen, who wants to go first? I'll go first.
Well, do it.
Okay,
yeah, it was like 3 seconds ago I said I didn't have an nincompoop, but I got one now.
All right. Fire away.
Wilkes Bar. Is it Wilkes Barre, Pennsylvania? Y'all know the town I'm talking about. It's B-A-R-R-E.
Yeah.
Wilkes-Barre, I think.
That's what I would have said, too.
Okay.
That's what I've heard before.
All right. Let's go to Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, where we find an intoxicated man from Exeter. I don't know where that is, obviously a suburb of Wilkes-Barre, was charged with felony assault after allegedly biting the thumb almost off of a Wilkes-Barre Township police officer in the parking lot of a Dream Girls.
Uh-oh.
Dream Girls.
I have the details. I know you want them. Police responded to a report of an intoxicated and disorderly patron. He soon became a patient. A patron at the Dream Girls, identified in court records as Brandon Lee Frisbee, 45 of Cedar Street.
His name's Frisbee?
Frisbee.
Okay.
Not spelled the same.
Oh.
With a Y. This guy.
Well, that's different.
Well, that's different. Yeah. Frisbee was encountered by police at the Adult Exotic Club's parking lot. You know, there's not a lot good happens after midnight, and a lot less happens good after midnight in the parking lot of a strip club.
Yeah.
That's where I do all my deals. That's the only place you go.
It's one thing. You know what? I would argue that maybe you ought not be inside of a strip club after midnight.
Yeah.
But hanging out in the parking lot, that is a next level move, and it's not going to end well.
Hardcore, man.
Well, yeah. Police say in court records that Frisbee showed signs of intoxication and was eventually arrested for public drunkenness and disorderly conduct. After a struggle to get him inside of the rear seat of a police cruiser, Frisbee then proceeded to, as the officer was getting inside of his police cruiser to take him to jail, the plexiglass partition was slightly open. And so Frisbee decided that it would be a good idea to stick his head through the partially opened plexiglass partition. He then proceeded to begin loudly shouting at the police officer. Fearing that Frisbee might force his body through the entire opening, the police officer attempted to push Frisbee back into the rear seat using his hand. And it was at this point that Frisbee allegedly opened his mouth and bit the officer's thumb. While biting down on the officer's thumb, he leaned all of his body weight back into the... Man, that had to hurt. That had to hurt. Causing more pain to the officer. Another officer... This is my favorite part of the story. I'm just going to read it as written. Another officer used all necessary force and stunned Frisbee with a taser to get him to release the officer that was being bitten. The officer was transported to the local Valley Medical Center and was eventually released. Employees at Dreamgirls told police that Frisbee was also disorderly inside of the establishment.
Who would have thought?
As you might expect. And when he was told to leave, he threatened to shoot the manager.
Goodness.
Wow, my goodness gracious. He was arraigned and charged with aggravated assault, terroristic threat, simple assault, resisting arrest, disorderly conduct, harassment, public drunkenness, and being a nincompoop.
Yes.
And that is my entry for the day.
Very
Mr.
nice.
Weber?
Mine comes from Jackson, Michigan. A man was breaking into a downtown Jackson sporting goods store and a gun dealer and only made it a few feet into the store before police arrived to arrest him. The man, 27, was arrested shortly before 11:45 on a Wednesday evening. This was back on January 22nd at Schumer's Sporting Goods after he smashed out the front window, broke through a wooden door, and entered the shop. From the time the alarm went off to police arriving at the scene was only 53 seconds,
Jeez.
according to the store manager.
That's pretty good.
He says police got here incredibly fast. He wants to give a huge shout out to the Jackson Police Department. They didn't get enough credit for the work they do. But as officers began establishing the perimeter around the building, the suspect exited and was arrested without further incident. Apparently, the investigation revealed that the suspect smashed the glass display case and put some handguns into a bag. But the man then also stopped to change his socks, shoes, and jacket with new clothes off the shelf during the break-in, leaving his dirty clothes on the floor. He obviously remains in jail, awaiting his court date. If he would have only changed clothes after he left the business, maybe he would not have been arrested. But 53 seconds. That's quite an impressive response time.
And his quality response time on the part of the police officers.
Well, were they on the corner or something?
They must have been. I'm assuming Jackson, Michigan is probably not a very big town. So
I'm a little confused. When did he change his clothes?
After he loaded his bag with firearms that he stole.
He decided to change his clothes then.
But before he left the business, yeah. He got his socks, shoes, and jacket from the clothing store or outdoor store. He just needed some new threads to go along with the stolen guns.
Right. Probably
so he
thought
decided to change.
Just the clock in his head, the alarm in his head had not gone off yet.
I have a feeling that he was thinking, okay, they're going to be looking for a guy wearing whatever I went in wearing. I'm going to change so that on the way out, they won't suspect a thing.
For some reason, I don't know why, this story reminds me, there was a barbecue joint in Birmingham, in a suburb of Birmingham, Bessemer, Alabama, that was broken into years ago. And it's a pretty famous break-in. It got national attention because the guy that broke into it slid down the chimney of the barbecue. But he took off his pants.
Well, you didn't want to get him dirty.
Because, I guess. And he got all lubed up. And so he got stuck. And he didn't have any underwear on either.
Oh.
So he was stuck there all night. And I interviewed Van Sykes, who was the owner of Bob Sykes Barbecue. Bob Sykes was his dad. And he said the guy came in to start up the barbecue pit. And he looked up, and there were these just naked legs dangling out of the chimney. It's like, boy, that fella looks like he needs a little help. Mr. Ken Weaver, you're an nincompoop, sir.
Well, I really couldn't find one today, boys. I hope I'm not wasting your time here. But about 100,000 eggs worth $40,000 were stolen from a trailer in Pennsylvania. happened at 8:40 Saturday night at Pete and Jerry's Organics in Greencastle. Thieves poached about 100,000 eggs from the back of a distribution trailer, according to authorities. The theft occurred at Pete and Jerry's Organics. State police did not have additional details Tuesday. They said the incident was under investigation. The theft comes as the price of eggs is on the rise.
Yeah.
Now, what my nincompoop here are the thieves who should have waited, because I'm sure Chuck Schumer will come out soon and say that Trump is going to put a tariff on chickens. And they can probably get a lot more than $40,000 for 100,000 eggs.
I like it. There you go. That's That's how you do nincompoops in the news on Super Talk 99.7 WT, and your votes are very important. We keep strict tallies on who is winning nincompoops in the news.
Yeah,
and right now, Ken Weaver is way ahead of Chris Webber.
It's rigged. Rigged, I tell you.
I tell you what. It's rigged. I really won. I'm ahead. Everybody knows it. By the way, somebody notes that it might not have been a good idea for my cop guy to tase the other guy.
With the thumb in his mouth.
With the thumb in his mouth,
because
clamp down.
Oh, made him bite down.
Up on the tasing. Yeah, got kind of lucky. He's lucky he didn't get his, well, you never know. If I'm that cop and he just bit me, I mean, you never know what might run out in front of your car on the way to the, you know what I'm saying?
Things happen.
Sometimes you got to stop short.
What was the name of that place again? The Angel's Den or something?
Why, you planning a visit?
I would not look this joint up.
Dream Girls, wasn't it?
Dream Girls.
Yeah, I'm looking that up.
Dream Girls.
I want to see how dreamy these girls are.
I've got there was a joint out in the middle of nowhere, Alabama, called Wesley's Booby Trap. I have a feeling that that's what we're talking about in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Old Wesley's. I'm not making this up. I've never been inside of Wesley's Booby Trap, but I had enough people tell me this, that they had little blocks of wood that they would chain to the tables, and if a particularly fetching dancer was on stage, the patrons would clap the blocks of wood together.
Oh, man.
And I never had it explained to me why. I mean,
yeah, that's pretty weird.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of questions about why any of that exists.
There's Trump and Benji.
All right, so what do you want me to do, Weber? Let me go to the all right, I'm going to go to a quick break, then we'll get to Trump and Benji, because we're probably going to have opening statements, and the meat of this is going to be in the questions. So quick timeout on Super Talk. USS stands for United Structural Systems. So if you're concerned about the foundation of your home, if you've noticed some of the signs that your home might be settling in an odd way, like windows sticking, doors sticking, or if you've noticed a musty or moldy smell coming out of your basement or crawl space, all of these can be signs of an issue with your foundation and an issue with waterproofing. It's time to get it settled. It's time to give yourself, I should say, a little peace of mind with USS. It stands for United Structural Systems. And since 1994, they've been assisting people like you to make sure that your home is on stable ground and will be for the foreseeable future, and to protect your family through the risk of health issues involving waterproofing issues. It can be a risk to your health. Let's make the call that so many others have made to USS, United Structural Systems. You can start your journey by going to USSTN.com. That's USSTN.com. Or better yet, give them a call. Schedule that appointment today. 615-488-7855, 488-7855. Call today. Our friends at USS.
So we had a robbery, a shot was fired, and then part of a busy interstate downtown was shut down. We've got the details for you coming up at 6 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thank you, Ken Weaver. We get to this Trump-Netanyahu joint press conference in mere seconds, and we'll carry that up until the top of the hour, and we'll get to Ken Weaver's newscast, and then we've got the 6 o'clock hour to dissect everything we're learning between these two world leaders. In the meantime, Sally writes in and says, the blocks of wood at Wesley's booby trap were probably there so that the one-armed people could clap.
A lot of those down there. I don't know.
Well,
or maybe their other arm was just being used for
easy.
drinking a beer. Drinking a beer. Come on, get your mind out of the gutter. What's the matter with you?
Well, it's let me tell you, from what I understand about Wesley's booby trap, there was a lot of clap going around. Dadgummit, I messed up the vote. I messed up the joke. A lot of yeah. Anyway, before any of the rest of this, I mean, but you ought to be ashamed of yourself. Let's go to Donald. Let's go to Donald Trump's press conference and see what's going on.
I so strongly believe that the Gaza Strip, which has been a symbol of death and destruction for so many decades, and so bad for the people anywhere near it, and especially those who live there, and frankly, who's been really very unlucky. It's been very unlucky. It's been an unlucky place for a long time. Being in its presence just has not been good, and it should not go through a process of rebuilding and occupation by the same people that have really stood there and fought for it and lived there and died there and lived a miserable existence there. Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site. But the people will be able to live in comfort and peace, and we'll make sure something really spectacular is done. They're going to have peace. They're not going to be shot at and killed and destroyed like this civilization of wonderful people has had to endure. The only reason the Palestinians want to go back to Gaza is they have no alternative. It's right now a demolition site. This is just a demolition site. Virtually every building is down. They're living under fallen concrete that's very dangerous and very precarious. They instead can occupy all of a beautiful area with homes and safety, and they can live out their lives in peace and harmony instead of having to go back and do it again. The U.S. will take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it, too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years. I'm hopeful that this ceasefire could be the beginning of a larger and more enduring peace that will end the bloodshed and killing once and for all. With the same goal in mind, my administration has been moving quickly to restore trust in the alliance and rebuild American strength throughout the region. And we've really done that. We're a respected nation again. A lot's happened in the last couple of weeks. We are actually a very respected nation again. I ended the last administration's de facto arms embargo on over $1 billion in military assistance for Israel. And I'm also pleased to announce that this afternoon, the United States withdrew from the anti-Semitic UN Human Rights Council and ended all of the support for the UN Relief and Works Agency, which funneled money to Hamas and which was very disloyal to humanity. Today, I also took action to restore a maximum pressure policy on the Iranian regime.
All right, we're listening to Donald Trump as he delivers opening remarks during a press conference, a joint press conference that I expect will be considerably longer than any press conference. Actually, I expect that Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu's press conference today will be longer than all of the press conferences that Joe Biden had combined. So what we will do is we'll step away, and I promise you're not going to miss a thing. We'll catch you up to anything Donald Trump happens to be saying during his opening statement. Benjamin Netanyahu will make an opening statement. We'll get back to that. We'll have our good friend J.K. Brister stop by the studios with us in the final hour of the Matt Murphy Show. It's time for news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. And a robbery leads to a shooting and a crash on I-65. Metro Police spokesman Don Aaron telling the media it all started with an attempted robbery at Green Hills Mall. A man carrying expensive merchandise out of one of the high-end stores was confronted in the parking lot. There was a struggle. A gun was fired there during the struggle. And then the robber got into a Tesla and took off.
We believe, based on what we can put together at this point, that there was at least one shot fired around the Tesla. The driver of the Tesla fled the mall with the robber passenger. On 440, they tried to enter 65. The driver was already wounded at that point and crashed into the tree here behind me.
Now, the driver of the Tesla died at the hospital. The passenger had tossed away a pistol after the crash. That person has been taken in for questioning. As for the shopper, who police say was robbed at the mall,
we do not, at this point, have the shopper identified. He was likely scared. He fled the mall. We need to speak with him to understand exactly his point of view as to what occurred. At this point, we believe he's a victim. He was a victim of a robbery that was taking place in the parking lot of the mall. He fought back, struggled against the person who was trying to rob him of his shopping bags. At some point, a shot takes place, and this person has fled.
Aaron says surveillance footage from the mall indicates the shopper came out of, again, one of the high-end stores with his purchases while this Tesla was driving around looking for someone to rob. President Trump says Palestinians have no home.
Instead, we should go to other countries of interest with humanitarian hearts, and there are many of them that want to do this, and build various domains that will ultimately be occupied by the 1.8 million Palestinians living in Gaza, ending the death and destruction and, frankly, bad luck. This can be paid for by neighboring countries of great wealth. It could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 12. It could be numerous sites, or it could be one large site.
That is just some of the joint press conference that is going on right now between President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. They're at the Oval Office. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hello, friends. It's Matt Murphy for Cover Nash. How much do you pay for your health insurance? How much did you pay last year? Now, how much do you pay for doctor visits and procedures? Now, maybe you aren't insured right now, and I know these are a lot of questions that we're asking you, but how much does not being insured cost you on a regular basis? Because Shane Ring at Cover Nash can help you find out exactly how much you spend and overspend based on your insurance plans, your doctor visits, your medical procedures. Shane Ring is not just a call center agent. He is local to Middle Tennessee. He will sit down with you. He's your expert right here, and he can go over your coverage, what exactly you need, what you don't need, as important as what you do need. You don't need to keep paying for plans that you don't utilize. Shane sits down with you and shops the entire health care plan market and helps you get paid from your health care plan. Ask him about this when you call Shane Ring and to Cover Nash. Don't get taken advantage of. Call Shane today at Cover Nash to find out what he can do for you. Go to covernash.com. That's covernash.com. Or write this number down, 615-465-0023. That's 465-0023. Take control of your money and your health care coverage with Cover Nash. covernash.com.
All right, we got a stalled vehicle over by the airport. It is blocking the right lane of 40 eastbound there at Briley Parkway. Also, a crash, 40 eastbound, just after Donaldson Pike near the airport. In Montgomery County, we have a crash, 24 westbound at MLK Parkway. And then a crash in Hadley. This is going to be 40 eastbound right after 28th Avenue. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is 7 minutes after 6. Welcome back to the Matt Murphy Radio Show on Super Talk. Thank you for being around. By the way, I have tallied the votes, gentlemen. And after much tally and consideration, and I think I got more votes than Weber.
Oh, come on.
I believe that is true.
Just because you're talking about perversions.
But neither of us got as many votes as Ken for some reason. I don't understand this.
See, I'm telling you, it's rigged.
I think it's a rigged game.
It's because I took a swipe at Schumer.
Well,
that could be.
That probably helped quite a bit. But there you go. Weaver is the big winner once again on the Nincompoops in the News segment. So we welcome into our studios. You know, it's always a good visit to sit down and talk with J.K. Brister, and J.K. is in with us this evening as we make our way to the 7 o'clock hour. What's going on, brother?
I'll tell you what, it feels like spring out there, doesn't it?
Doesn't it really? The
bugs are flying, the termites are growing. Like, it's crazy, man.
Kind of craziness. I like that shirt, by the way. Everybody can see this shirt on the Super Talk TV.
The Gulf of America.
The Gulf of America.
Hey, you know, just real quick, you know why he did that, right? I can tell you. So
drilling rights.
On the way out, Biden banned something, and they couldn't do anything with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a legal thing. He makes it a big show. It makes it like a viral moment. But while nobody's looking, he's signing this and turning it into a Gulf of America. Well, none of the legal documents that ban drilling or anything in the Gulf.
It's the Gulf of Mexico.
It's the Gulf of Mexico. So if it's the Gulf of America officially, then you can do anything you want.
Has the Google Maps changed it yet? I don't.
Google is going to.
They're going to.
We saw the report that they're going to take.
Because all the liberals got mad about it.
Right. So here's what it is. We're going to be the OPEC of the world.
Let's go.
Fine.
I'm ready.
We're going to get it.
Look, every oil rig I've ever seen off the coast of Florida. I've never been to California.
Right.
But everyone I've ever seen off the coast of Florida, it doesn't bother me a bit. You know what that looks like? That looks like freedom.
So many ages ago, I worked for a couple of different companies, Turner Construction and different things, and went on oil rigs out in the Gulf.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most excruciating boat ride you've ever been on. But I've been on those things, and I'll tell you what, it's one of the greatest things ever. They don't kill the fish. They don't hurt anything. They love them.
Yep.
Like the plankton, all the coral that gets on the legs, everything. Like it's a refuge in the middle of nowhere. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, they gather it's a sanctuary.
Yeah, I love
I loved it. A lot of the wildlife.
Yeah, I went from a 185-pound fighter to a 250-pound. I mean, they feed you good on those things.
What, are you lifting, by the way? What are you doing over there?
So, okay, short, quick. Okay,
well,
for everybody out there, everybody out there in wolf land with the wolf and the eagle right here, right?
I'm the lone. I told JK I was the lone wolf, and he said, "Well, I'm more the eagle."
So you know, right? So I think we interchange there a little bit, you know,
sometimes.
But we ain't a woke culture anymore, so it's
the pronoun.
So what I did was
pronouns
10 months ago, right?
Right.
I was 325, 30 pounds, 42% body fat. I was a big old boy, so I was carrying it well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
6'4", whatever.
Yeah.
I started doing carnivore.
You're just eating the meat.
I stopped running. I stopped doing cardio. I stopped doing all that. I work out 3 days a week. I'm down to 17% body fat, 280 pounds, and I feel like I'm 30 years old. You want?
Man,
I'm just telling everybody out there. Look up.
Y'all need to go to Super Talk TV and look at these pythons he's carrying on him.
Boom.
I mean, they're looking good. You're filling out that Gulf of America shirt.
Yeah, man.
And I love the shirt too because that's American capitalism at its greatest.
That's right.
How long did that? I mean, when did you get that shirt?
So here's the deal. He was up there. He was talking live about the Gulf of America, and I looked up on the MAGA store, and it was already there, and I ordered 4 of them.
That's the free market capitalism,
dude,
man.
He's sitting in the Oval Office. He goes, okay,
Gulf of America.
We're going to do that today. MAGA.com. Make sure we got T-shirts.
I got T-shirts. Hey, speaking of the man, he's taking questions right now. JK's in studio with us. We're going to watch some of this and listen along with Donald Trump's with Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's join some of this in progress.
Possible out. Whether or not it holds, I don't know. We hope it holds. We hope it holds.
I think that at the appropriate time, which I think will enable us to really investigate what happens, what were the causes of the failures, by an independent commission that will be accepted by the majority of the people. We don't want it accepted by one half of the people and not the other. I think we should have it, and we should find out exactly what happened. I'm insisting on it. And believe me, it'll surprise a lot of people when it happens.
Kelly, go ahead.
You are outlining something that is really quite striking tonight. You are talking about... Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. You are talking tonight about the United States taking over a sovereign territory. What authority would allow you to do that? Are you talking about a permanent occupation there, redevelopment? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you see this idea as a way to expand the boundaries of Israel and to have a longer peace, even though the Israeli people know how important that land is to you and your citizens, just as the space is inherited by the Palestinians as well?
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble and demolished buildings falling all over. It's just a terrible sight. I've studied it. I've studied this very closely over a lot of months, and I've seen it from every different angle. And it's a very, very dangerous place to be, and it's only going to get worse. And I think this is an idea that's gotten tremendous, and I'm talking about from the highest level of leadership, gotten tremendous praise. And if the United States can help to bring stability and peace in the Middle East, we'll do that. Bibi?
I mentioned again tonight our 3 goals, and the third goal is to make sure that Gaza never poses a threat to Israel again. President Trump is taking it to a much higher level. He sees a different future for that piece of land that has been the focus of so much terrorism, so many attacks against us, so many trials and so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history. And it's worthwhile really pursuing this avenue.
Yeah, please, go ahead. Go ahead. Right.
Question for you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So before rebuilding Gaza again, obviously we'll take out all the hostages, and one of them is Dan Alexander, an American soldier who is alive. How will you be assured that you will take out all the hostages and then rebuild?
We're working very hard to get all the hostages. The word is all, and we are working very hard. So far, it's been moving along fairly rapidly, pretty much on schedule. I'd love to have them all out at one time, but we're taking them out, and tomorrow more are being released, and over the days more, and then we'll go into a phase 2. But we'd like to get all of the hostages, and if we don't, it will just make us somewhat more violent. I will tell you that, because they would have broken their word. Mr. Witkoff and his entire group have been working 24 hours around the clock, and they want them out, and promises have been made to them, and we'll see whether or not those promises will be kept. But we want all the hostages, that's right.
How much time do you think it will take?
Do you support, Mr. President, do you support Israeli sovereignty in Judea and Samaria, areas which many believe is the biblical homeland of the Jewish people?
Well, we're discussing that with many of your representatives. You're represented very well, and people do like the idea, but we haven't taken a position on it yet. But we will be we'll be making an announcement probably on that very specific topic over the next 4 weeks. Go ahead, please. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. You just said that you think all the Palestinians should be relocated to other countries. Does that mean that you do not support a two-state solution?
It doesn't mean anything about a 2-state or 1 state or any other state. It means that we want to have, we want to give people a chance at life. They have never had a chance at life because the Gaza Strip has been a hellhole for people living there. It's been horrible. Hamas has made it so bad, so dangerous, so unfair to people. And by doing what I'm recommending that we do, it's a very strong recommendation, but it is a strong recommendation. By doing that, we think we're going to bring perhaps great peace to long beyond this area. And I have to stress, this is not for Israel. This is for everybody in the Middle East, Arabs, Muslims. This is for everybody. This would be where they can partake in terms of jobs and living and all of the other benefits. And I think it's very important. It just doesn't work the other way. You know, you can't keep trying. They just has been going along for so many decades, you can't even count. You just can't keep doing. You have to learn from history. You can't keep doing the same mistake over and over again. Gaza is a hellhole right now. It was before the bombing started, frankly. And we're going to give people a chance to live in a beautiful community that's safe and secure. And I think you're going to see a tremendous outflowing of support. I can tell you, I spoke to other leaders of countries in the Middle East, and they love the idea. They say it would really bring stability, and what we need is stability. Yes, sir, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. Are you still committed to imposing sanctions on the ICC despite the move being stalled in the Senate? And please, a question for the Prime Minister as well.
All right, we're going to break away right now for just a moment. You're listening to President Donald J. Trump answer questions from an assembled media with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel. The big breaking news story of the evening is that Donald Trump announced that it was his intention to move forward with a plan, and it is a plan that the United States of America take over the region of the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future, to take over ownership of that plot of land, to redevelop it for the purpose of a peaceful resolution to the conflict that has gone on over there for so long. I'm not evaluating it in any terms other than just offering you the news that we just heard together on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu said it was a different idea, a different approach, and he welcomes a different approach to stop the bloodshed and the carnage that does exist over there. I would agree with Donald Trump in as much as you cannot continue to do the same thing over and over, hand it over to radical Muslims who have designs on killing the Jewish people and the Israeli state and expect a different result. I don't know that I'm in agreement necessarily with some aspects of the manner in which he spoke, but I'm going to wait to see how this works itself out over the next couple of days, because I've learned from listening to Donald Trump, from observing Donald Trump, that you do not evaluate something based on how he describes it or how he presents it initially. You wait and let it flesh out, because a lot of times he speaks in a way that freaks people out, and then when you come to what he's really talking about doing, it is much more of a reasoned and well thought out approach. So we're going to hold there. We'll take a short time out. JK's in studio with us, JK Brister, who a lot of people are asking about your carnivore diet. I'll ask you about that coming up in just a couple of minutes. We'll get back to the press conference right after this on Super Talk. Hey, friends, it's Matt Murphy for Genesis Diamonds. Throughout the month of February, they are celebrating the month of romance. They're going to make it easy for you guys. All right, it's easy. Let me just say this. Guys, if you are just doing the flowers and just doing the chocolate and maybe the romantic dinner out, I mean, that's fine. I mean, and she's going to like that, and it's nice, and she's never going to talk about it again. But if you do something sparkly from Genesis Diamonds, that's going to be something that she calls her girlfriends about, that she shows off, whether it's on her ears, around her neck, on her wrist, on her hand. And guys, they make it one-stop shopping because you don't have to sacrifice one to do the other. If you spend $399 at Genesis Diamonds on a beautiful pendant or a sparkly ring or something to go around her neck as a necklace, $399 and up, you can spend as much as you want. But if you do that, you're going to get the ultimate Valentine's experience, because they're going to give you flowers from Jenny's Florist, a beautiful bouquet. You'll get a gift card for dinner at Fancy Pants Restaurant, and they'll give you some chocolates to boot. They don't mess around. At Genesis Diamonds, they don't want any excuses. Just get to Genesis, and one of their qualified folks will walk you around the store and find something that is just right for the loved one in your life. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds. Cool Springs and Green Hills. Limited quantities. See store for details at Genesis Diamonds.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lock boxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
A robbery in Nashville leads to a shooting and a crash. And right now at the White House, President Trump, standing with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, suggests the U.S. take over Gaza and Palestinians be relocated. Also, the day is closing money news at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I mean, yes, you just heard the voice of Ken Weaver. We'll get back to the White House here momentarily. Matt Murphy in studio. Our friend J.K. Brister is sitting in studio with us as well. And we're both watching the proceedings happening at the White House as Donald Trump continues to take questions before the assembled media, saying that the United States of America, he has plans to take over the Gaza Strip to help redevelop that area and to secure that area for the betterment of that region. Let's continue listening in to Donald Trump in his press conference.
Saudi Arabia, and I'll visit other places all over the Middle East. The Middle East is an incredible place, so vibrant, so it's just one of the really beautiful places and with great people. And I think a lot of bad leadership has taken place in the Middle East that's allowed this to happen. It's just terrible. And that includes on the American side, by the way. We should have never gone in there a long time ago, spent trillions of dollars and created so much death. So that includes Americans. But yeah, I'll be visiting a lot of different places in the Middle East. I've been invited everywhere, but I will be visiting some, yeah. Okay. Let's go. Caitlin, go ahead. Caitlin.
Thank you so much, President Trump.
Caitlin, go ahead.
On what you were saying there.
Say it. Go ahead, please.
Just to follow up on what you were saying about the Gazans leaving Gaza, going to other countries. One, where exactly are you suggesting that they should go? And two, are you saying they should return after it's rebuilt? And if not, who do you envision living there?
I envision the world, people living there, the world's people. I think you'll make that into an international, unbelievable place. I think the potential in the Gaza Strip is unbelievable. And I think the entire world, representatives from all over the world will be there, and they'll live there. Palestinians also. Palestinians will live there. Many people will live there. But they've tried the other, and they've tried it for decades and decades and decades. It's not going to work. It didn't work. It will never work. And you have to learn from history. History has, you just can't let it keep repeating itself. We have an opportunity to do something that could be phenomenal. And I don't want to be cute. I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be something that could be so bad. This could be so magnificent. But more importantly than that is the people that have been absolutely destroyed that live there now can live in peace in a much better situation because they're living in hell. And those people will now be able to live in peace. We'll make sure that it's done world class. It'll be wonderful for the people. Palestinians mostly we're talking about. And I have a feeling that despite them saying no, I have a feeling that the king in Jordan and that the general president, but that the general in Egypt will open their hearts and will give us the kind of land that we need to get this done, and people can live in harmony and in peace. Thank you all very much.
All right, it looks like they're winding down the press conference, so it's going to give us an opportunity to hand it off to Ken Weaver while he delivers some of the news headlines. We'll dissect and digest some of what President Donald Trump said alongside Benjamin Netanyahu and give you our thoughts on it and take your calls as well, 615-737-9986. It's the Matt Murphy Show. Incredible breaking news tonight as the president says his plan is to take over the stabilization of the Gaza Strip and to take, his word now, ownership of that region for the foreseeable future until such time as it can be redeveloped and then repopulated with, his words, people of the world. It's 30 after the hour on Super Talk.
I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Metro Police say a robbery led to a shooting and a crash that shut down a busy interstate this afternoon. At 2 o'clock today, a shopper tussled with a robber in the Green Hills Mall parking lot where police believe at least one shot had been fired. Now, the robber got into a Tesla, and the Tesla ended up crashing while exiting 440 to 65. Police say the driver of the Tesla had been shot and later died at the hospital. The passenger, police say, had tossed a pistol away and is being questioned. Meanwhile, police are asking that the shopper, whom they consider a victim, to come forward. Moments ago from the White House, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu standing with President Trump.
You are the greatest friend Israel has ever had in the White House.
President Trump saying Gaza's like a, quote, demolition site, suggests the U.S. take it over and relocate the 1.8 million Palestinians whose home is in ruin due to the war which Hamas started. Money News, Dave Packer.
The market managing to bounce back Tuesday after Wall Street shook off investor panic from President Trump's proposed tariffs over the weekend. The Dow closed 134 points higher and the S&P up 43 points. The tech-heavy NASDAQ rose 262 points thanks to gains from software company Palantir. The company's job openings fell in December to 7.6 million from the 8.2 million in November. That's a sign the labor market is cooling, but still healthy. Professional and business services companies, healthcare, finance, social assistance appear to scale back their hiring efforts, but arts, entertainment, and recreation saw a noted rise in job postings. As the country continues to battle the biggest bird flu outbreak in a decade, Waffle House announced they'll be implementing a temporary surcharge to customers to offset the rising cost of eggs. The company released a statement saying, while we hope these price fluctuations will be short-lived, we cannot predict how long this shortage will last.
That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News. All right, got a crash 40 eastbound just after 28th Avenue. Then near the airport, we have two crashes, both of them impacting 40 eastbound, one at Briley Parkway, and the other one is after Donaldson Pike. The right lane is blocked actually by a stalled vehicle there at Briley Parkway. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Do y'all have a gun safe over there? If not, I encourage you to listen up, because if you're looking for a gun safe, or if you've been thinking about it, or even if you haven't been thinking about it but you've got guns, you need to, because your guns are at risk, and those are the things, right, that protect you and protect your family and protect your property, the things that are most important to you. Well, if you're not protecting those things through theft or fire, then I would suggest humbly that you're not doing it the right way. Do it the right way by going to Nashville Safe House. Mark and his team have well over 200 safes right there on the showroom floor. You have to see it to understand it. They have rows and rows. It's like you are a rat and you're in a maze of safes. You can get out. Don't worry. Mark will lead you. But every shape, every size, every brand name that you know, every fire rating, and every price point for you and your budget. They're right there at Nashville Safe House. Nashville Safe House has another 400 safes in their warehouse. So they have almost 600 safes ready to go for you and professional delivery for you and your family, so you don't have some third party that you don't know about in your house. You've got somebody from Nashville Safe House in your house. Go to 4th Avenue South in Nashville to see the selection right across the street from City Cemetery. When you do, tell them their Employee of the Year, Matt Murphy, sent you to Nashville Safe House. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So just finishing up a press conference, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu. Let me tell you, this man knows how to make some news, and he certainly made some. What with the hostages being returned per the demand of the new president of the United States. And yes, those hostages are being returned in 3s and 4s, but they are coming back as promised by the enemy. Donald Trump made news tonight. In his presentation with Benjamin Netanyahu, he announced that the United States of America would be taking over the Gaza Strip, taking over security protocols for the foreseeable future, and taking, his word, ownership of the Gaza Strip. Not entirely sure what that looks like or what that means, but he says for the purposes of redeveloping it and making it a secure location where everyone, all the peoples of the world, including the Palestinians, can live and can work and can raise families without fear for their safety. Your thoughts on it, 615-737-9986, either through the members, I almost called it the members nutrition. Why do I do that? I don't know. It hadn't been the membersnutrition.com super text line in a long time, but I keep giving those. I like those guys. They're good people. So it's the super text line, 615-737-9986. J.K. Brister joins us in studio as well.
Man.
Man. You come on nights and news breaks. Every time you come into our studio, we get big news breaking. Every time.
I'm blessed.
I love it.
I'm blessed. We got something good to talk about.
I mean, look, what do you think?
I think that Trump is the man. I think that he is, some people say that you're called for a moment. He's been ready for this moment. I think that the last election being railroaded and taken was the best thing that happened to him because it gave him time. And I think that whole team, they came in knowing what they were going to do, and this ain't just happening.
I do not believe, and you and I have not talked about this. We've not pre-planned this, but you bring something up. And I've been thinking this, and I've mentioned it once or twice, but it's right on the point that you made, that as frustrated as all of us were in the aftermath of the 2020 election cycle, and as much, look, when I saw that, I knew that shenanigans took place. We knew that it was not on the up and up.
100%. You can tell in the graph. Even Joe Rogan saw that.
But after this election cycle, where the Democrats lost 9.5 million voters, I'm like, where'd all your voters go? Right. So anyway,
they were,
but at the time
in the cemetery.
right. At the time, it was so frustrating. Now, it just feels like he is doing more, faster, better than he ever would if his terms had been consecutive.
Right. If they were consecutive, he would have been pulled in and still in the machine, and he even admitted that. He said, the first time I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have the right people around me. I didn't understand the beast. And now
he certainly does.
He does now. And now he's got a few people that I think squeezed through, and I'm not going to name any names, but it's not RFK. I love him. It's a couple of other people that have squeezed through, but they'll be ferreted out, because if you ain't really on his team this time, they're going to find you quick.
Well, and it creates a dynamic. And look, I don't know. We're just absorbing this specific news, and I don't know what the details are. I don't know. It
With
is
Trump,
not,
you never know.
You never know. And here's what I've learned, is that you take a minute to absorb what the guy is saying and figure out what the game plan is.
Right.
And he will let you know in drips and drabs what that game plan is before you judge something and jump off a cliff.
Right.
So I'm not going to I hesitate. I mean, when America engages in certain levels of nation building, I think it sometimes causes me some concern. I don't think that's what he's talking about
100%, I agree with you. We should not be policing the world. We should not be nation building. However, with him, it's not political. It's not New World Order. It's not globalism. If he's doing it, he believes that it's the right thing to do, but he's not doing that. I'll just say we're going to wait and see. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm not going to assume anything because he knows what he's doing.
And I'll say this, the man is unafraid. And I think the 4 years that he was out of office, I would never pretend to be inside of his head, but I imagine that there were some times. I mean, I know I lost faith. When 2022, 2023.
You and I talked about it. I told you I I was this close to being done.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
I mean, we did talk about this. I mean, that you get disillusioned. You feel like maybe we've lost that fire that created, that forged America.
Burn.
Right.
Let Rome burn. That's what I said.
To get to the other side.
At some point,
you got to let it go.
All these people want this.
Then let them have it.
And we've been telling them what's happening, and then they don't want to listen. Then it's time to stand back, let Rome burn, and then rebuild it. But guess what? Right at the last second,
this happened. And it's incredible. and look, Donald Trump, say what you will, and it's okay to have minor disagreements with our man. And I'm not pretending this is one of them, but he comes at this so honest, and he is unafraid of his critics.
Right.
He evaluates, and we need that so much in an American statesman.
Yep.
And for far too long, frankly, and I don't call myself a Republican, more Republicans than ever seem unafraid to take a position and take a stand.
Right.
And say, look, if you want to disagree with me on this, so be it.
Right.
But this is where I'm at on this issue.
Listen, brother, during the Tea Party, I taught the Constitution. For the last 20 years, I've got my teeth kicked in. I've had people tell me you're that patriotic stuff is wrong. You got to stop talking like that. People in business are patriots, and they're scared to death to say that they are. They're scared to death to stand up for America, stand up because they're going to get attacked. I just feel like today we've come into our own.
Mm-hmm.
For 20 years, it was hard to be a man in America, much less anything else. And you had to keep your mouth shut. Now it's like, okay, look, I'm gonna be nice here. I'm not gonna go too far. But you're not going to scare me.
Going too far.
You ain't going to scare me anymore. You're not going to put me down. I'm not going to shrink so you feel better.
Well, and
that's it.
And we learn, and in the face of Donald Trump doing these things,
right,
you learn even more how the other side plays the game. It's all about, for them, it's all about feelings. It's all about emotion,
all that.
And for far too long, we have attempted to be sympathetic.
Right.
To them. But they have all of that emotion is fronting an agenda.
Right.
And they want us to acquiesce, to give them a little, to be sensitive to their emotional turmoil or whatever it might be, and they use that against us.
Well, and here's the thing. It's a religion of government.
Amen.
So if you hear them, if you watch Chuck Schumer, if you watch the Democrats in Congress, if you watch some of the Republicans, the liberal Republicans, rhinos, right? Trump made that famous. Anybody who didn't know they were rhinos, they're bowing to the religion of government. I've heard Republicans tell me, I've had Democrats tell me, you don't understand how government works. Listen, that's against the norm. You hear somebody on Fox News, MSNBC, they're talking about, well, that's against political norms. Norms are not law, but to them it's law. And so what you're hearing is a religion that's being taken on. You're seeing someone bringing down the veil and showing the wizard.
Well, yeah, when they freak out about USAID or whatever, they're freaking out because to them that is a part of the altar of government. They bow before the altar of government.
That's right.
Right? And if you start destroying those worship centers, those altars.
Okay, what did they say? Sacred.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
sacred.
Oh, that's right. These are sacred government institutions.
The sacred halls. They say that, and I'm like, guys, we've allowed government servants to become royalty. We treat our congressmen, our state legislators. Look, you go to a meeting, and instead of servants, they call themselves authorities. They call themselves leaders. Let me tell you something. They never made a dime. They ain't never given anybody a dime, but they sure take them. You see what I'm saying? Leaders don't do that. Leaders create, and they create opportunity. Leaders don't take it.
This is exactly what we're talking about. And let me tell you, one of the things that our man Trump does as well is he identifies where people can best serve his vision.
That's right.
And like if I wouldn't want Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in charge of certain aspects. I wouldn't want him in charge of the EPA.
Amen.
Right? All right. For example.
Right.
But health is exactly where it needs to be. And I'll say this. I was never that big of a fan of Marco Rubio. Not that big of a fan.
You know what? I wasn't either.
But he put him in exactly the right spot. Listen to Rubio talking about USAID.
You're now the head of USAID. The head of Doge, Elon Musk, called USAID a criminal organization and added that it is time for it to die. Do you agree with that?
They have basically evolved into an agency that believes that they're not even a U.S. government agency, that they are a global charity, that they take the taxpayer money and they spend it as a global charity, irrespective of whether it is in the national interest or not in the national interest. One of the most common complaints you will get if you go to embassies around the world from State Department officials and ambassadors and the like is USAID is not only not cooperative, they undermine the work that we're doing in that country. They are supporting programs that upset the host government for whom we're trying to work with on a broader scale and so forth. So they're completely unresponsive. They just don't consider that they work for the U.S. They just think they're a global entity and that their master is the globe and not the United States. And that's not what the statute says, and that's not sustainable.
Can it be reformed, or does it need to die?
Well, that was always the goal, was to reform it. But now we have rank insubordination. Now we have basically an active effort where their basic attitude is, we don't work for anyone. We work for ourselves. No agency of government can tell us what to do. So the president made me the acting administrator. I've delegated that power to someone who's there full time, and we're going to go through the same process at USAID as we're going through now at the State Department. I think there are some, this is not about getting rid of foreign aid. There are things that we do through USAID that we should continue to do that makes sense. And we'll have to decide, is that better through the State Department or is that better through something, a reformed USAID?
No, see, this is exactly right. I mean, so Democrats like to play this game where it's all or nothing.
Right.
And Rubio says, no, we can still, if it's a worthwhile project, we throw it in front of the Congress, in front of the American people. We continue that project. But as far as USAID, I mean, and he's saying it without quite saying it.
Right.
That's over.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Well,
it's a part of the State Department.
Here's the thing about USAID and about governmental organizations, especially the non-governmental organizations. There are non-governmental organizations, NGOs, in Tennessee, in all 50 states, all over the world. Some of them are legitimate, but the majority of them are shills filled up with politicians from the state you're in. And there's some right here in Nashville where everyone who goes to their meetings is a mayor, a legislator, whatever. And here's what they're doing. It's a shadow government. They're making plans. They're doing all this stuff. And then they're getting it passed. They're pushing it. They're sideways lobbying. They're funneling money through it. They're sending money overseas. And this, I'll just say this. I've been studying it today since we were going to talk about it. We've been using it as a government. The government has, but we're the people. We make up the government. On our behalf, we've been helping topple governments and helping do coups and through the USAID, through NGOs.
And if you saw, and we have seen, and some of the expose of the Doge program exhibits this, these NGOs, they are managed and controlled by so many former politicians. And I mean, that's where politicians go to rake in millions of dollars.
Why do they call it a non-governmental organization? They could have chosen anything else, is because they need non-governmental. Well, you got government, non-governmental, then the government uses them to do things.
That's it. Hey, we have no accountability to the taxpayer dollar that we exist to suck.
And then they raise private money. These organizations are doing nefarious things. Not all of them. There's good non-governmental organizations that mean well and they're doing good things. I'm not saying them all of them, but every bad one that I've ever heard has NGO in its name.
Well, and I will say this. My standard, my litmus test over the last 6 months has been this. If you hear an NGO tell you that they will cease to exist if the government component of their contribution goes away, then it's not an NGO.
Right. It's not a real one.
It's not a real NGO. Those real NGOs might get hurt. They might say, boy, that's going to hurt us, but we'll figure it out. We'll do this, we'll do that thing. But the ones that cease to exist, if the government funding ceases to exist, that's not an NGO. That's a GO.
That's a GO, government organization. That's my whole point.
All right.
To NGO. Right.
You know how much I love you in here.
Yes, sir.
And we're just out of time.
Hey,
that's sad.
You know what? Buy some pest control.
Look, JK is, believe it or not, he is more knowledgeable about pest control than he is about government, and he's pretty darn knowledgeable about government.
I like killing pests in both of them.
You know what?
Figuratively.
You know what? It's the same thing. Whether you're talking about the bureaucracy or pest, you're stomping on roaches.
That's right. That's exactly correct. Son, let's bring the pain.
I love it.
The eagle and the wolf.
And,
Thank you for having me,
and
brother.
by the way, eat carnivores. That, according to JK, is the way to go.
Look up Dr.
I'm going to eat carnivore for the next week, and if I don't have guns like he does, I'm going to stop.
Dr. Kim Berry. Just look him up on YouTube.
All right. There he is. 53 after the hour. We're going to wrap it up in a moment on Super Talk. Listen, I don't pick favorites when it comes to the wonderful sponsors of the Matt Murphy Radio Show, but I will say this. Men of Valor works on a couple of different levels, and I love their charitable component. I love the fact that they help turn men to God, and I love the fact that they save the taxpayer money. And they do all of those things with the simple concept that if you do a crime, if you commit crime, you need to go do the time. You need to pay your debt to society. But what kind of men do we want coming out on the other side? Because, frankly, 90% of the men that go into prison are going to get out at some point. What type of guy do you want coming out? Do you want a criminal coming out that's learned to be a better criminal? Or do you want a man of God, a man with purpose in his life? Because the power of God and the power of God's people is incredible. And within the system, Men of Valor works to help bring men to God and to help them understand how to lead good and productive lives and become good, productive members of society. Will you join us in helping set these captives free and making our community a safer place in the process? Please do so by going to movministry.com. That's movministry.com to find out how you can help. We appreciate you. Mention me when you mention Men of Valor.
The guaranteed offer is the easiest way to sell your home. It's really simple. We bring you an all-cash offer. You close in as little as 21 days. No home inspections, no lockboxes, no open houses. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer and start packing.
Last thing I said to JK, can you find your way out? He said yes. And everybody, JK is not immune to the system. Everybody walks in a complete, you walked in a circle, didn't you? He did walk in a circle. All right, we've got to go, but before we do, all right, big news in the last hour of the show. Big news item number one, Donald Trump announced that the United States of America will be taking an active role in stabilizing the Gaza Strip. His word was ownership of the Gaza Strip for the foreseeable future. I don't know how I feel about that. Got to think on it. We'll have more on that tomorrow. Here's big news item number two. We now have a new U.S. Attorney General, and her name is Pam Bondi. Absolutely love it. Votes coming up with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., votes coming up with Tulsi Gabbard. Those are the two biggies. A few other cabinet appointments to confirm by the United States Senate, but we are on our way, and we're just over 2 weeks into the presidency of Donald Trump, the second term of Donald J. Trump. More tomorrow. Mark Levin coming up next. Have a wonderful evening, folks. So long, everybody.